Yo. Sorry, I made myself laugh. I didn't mean to. That was stupid. How you doing? I don't know what I don't know why I'm here. No, Monday grind on a Tuesday, which has been the regular, and it is going to be the regular for the next couple of weeks at least. If anyone has anything they want to chat about fantasy football, statistics in general, or anything else, mock link. That's the thing. Yeah, I thought we might do take a look at some mock draft ADP. The thing is, there's a tool out there made by a nerd that I kind of wanted to play around with, and that's what I was thinking. So we can do a mock together, I guess, but I wanted to do a mock through Andy's tool. I forget his Twitter at. What's his Twitter at? Oh, it's just his name. Okay. Andy Estridge. Let me see. Where is he? Boom. Andy Estridge, woefully underfollowed. He's a great nerd and does a lot of wonderful things with making websites and things. I'm on the wrong page here. Yeah, here's Andy. And you should definitely follow him. He's got this website called Fantasy Football Workshop. The thing over here. And on it, there's a mock draft tool. Now, what it's doing is it's pulling live ADP from my fantasy league, if I remember right. And so you can essentially use a different version of ADP. And I wanted to experiment with it because I keep getting questioned on my valuation of players anyway, compared to what everyone thinks. And apparently DLF ADP isn't getting it done. So webpage, we just updated this webpage with refresh. Okay. So yeah, the football workshop, it's got a few different apps. The one I'm interested in is mocks. And yeah, you can select whether you want a rookie draft or a startup draft, the size of league, your actual starting position. And I thought it might be an interesting thing to try, but we can set up an actual mock and do my fantasy league mock if any of you all want in. But I thought I'd try this thing first for a little while. Just let everyone know about Andy. And if you're alone and bored like me a lot at 2 a.m., you can actually just practice some mocks or get a sense of how your draft might go based on my fantasy league ADP. So we're going to do rookie superflex draft was my thinking. Anyone got a thought on where we should select from? What our 101 pick, our first round pick is? Hey, folks, how you doing? Why do you live in the US? My wife lives here. I find it easier to be married to someone if we're on the same continent. That's literally the reason. Hey, how you doing, bud? Bob, how you doing? Andy Eskridge, thank you. Yeah, I got there eventually. Like always, I get there eventually, just not in great style. MFL Sleeper, he said. Oh, right. He's using My Fantasy League and Sleeper, or is using some new website I don't know about? While we wait for Bob to get back to us on that one, I'm going to put on some music. Anyway, let's see how the tool works, I guess. So let's just, it's super flex, so I definitely want to just don't pick a quarterback. So let's take the 8th pick and click start. Not the best thing for streaming, but it's gotten Lawrence and Fields 1 and 2, then Najee Harris. What's that? Who's it? Who's this? Trevor Lawrence again? No. Oh, Trey Lance. Okay. Kyle Pitts. Okay, Kyle Pitts went 5th overall. I'm feeling pretty good about the league that I'm in right here, Andy. And Rashad Bateman went 6th. Wow. Okay, that's high for a guy I'm hoping to get in the second because no NFL teams ever spent a 3rd-round pick on that conference. Then Zack Wilson. Wow. Heavy quarterback favoriting going on here. So at 8, the choice is Jamar Chase or Edney, unless you really want to stick to the trend and go quarterback. And I'm just taking Chase there at 8. Use them both. Got it. MFL and Sleeper. Yeah, remember it's Jamar Chase at 8. I wish I could. Here we go. Let's get my face off the screen. Maybe you'll be able to see it a little better. Yeah, so according to the ADP of MFL and Sleeper, Superflex drafts are going to go Lawrence Fields, Najee Harris, Trey Lance. I mean, just all the quarterbacks, I guess, apart from Mr. Trask. Kyle Pitts at 5, which just no, thank you. Rashad Bateman, Zack Wilson, who's apparently a quarterback in this draft. Jamar Chase was our pick, or my pick. Then Travis Etienne, who was the other guy I might have selected there, but no. Then Jalen Waddle, faith be to you. Devonte Smith goes 11, which seems like a pretty nice value. I think Devonte Williams might end up as that late round running back candidate this year, so that seems to make sense. Mac Jones, Ronda Moore. Ronda Moore fell to the second pick in the second round. Then Elijah Moore, back-to-back. Second round wide receiver, overrated, apparently. Kenneth Gainwell, Terrence Marshall, Trey Sermon, Jamar Jefferson. So who we got left here, fam? Anyone like? Don't make me pull up my ranks. Yeah, I felt pretty comfortable in taking the number 1 wide receiver there over the number 2 running back. But, you know, I get running back wrong a lot. This second round pick, I'm thinking, quite honestly, Chuba Hubbard, since I went wide receiver anyway. That's where I would go. I'm back. Yeah, I'm on the same row as a third round pick to me. Dimey Brown is interesting right here. And okay, that's it. Yeah, I think I'll just take Chuba Hubbard. Second round running back value is kind of lit. Michael Carter. Oh, I was hoping he'd fall too. Taylor Wallace is another good wide receiver. Late second round is interesting. Tony Amon-Ra, great name. And then Dimey Brown. Wow. In Superflex, we really needed to be trading for these second round wide receivers. Like, I like to trade up, and if that's where Bateman is going, I guess that's my target, or Najee Harris at 3 even. But I'm liking the second round this year. Ronda Moore, Elijah Moore, Tyler Wallace. Hell, even St. Brown at the end of the second isn't bad, but I wouldn't take him over Dimey. Jamar Jefferson looks like a value there. Pick 7 in the second round too. Who else we got? No. I mean, Jarrett Patterson here, if you just want a guy who might break out to be the next, pure runner. Discount Derrick Henry with no draft capital. Actually, this is the guy I've actually been meant to be doing, meant to break into a little bit. Demeric Felton. I noticed him on where is he? Yeah, he passes Zach Reed rule pretty well. And so I wanted to look. He has 3 seasons with 20 plus catches. So I meant to look into him a little bit more, but I haven't yet. Puka Williams. Don't know that name either, but it sounds like a good name. All right. I tell you what. Yeah, Brevin Jordan's here. Third round, I might be interested in a tight end. A more productive tight end than anyone from last year. Wide receiver list. I like Tutu Atwell. I'd be tempted with Tutu or Brevin Jordan, I think. Tony. No, I think I just go ahead and take the hit for everyone and let him keep falling. Oh, no, he was taken. Okay. Yeah, Tony was taken the end of the second round, and, got be with him. Taylor Wallace or Chuba for me. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at, too. I just took the running backs, already got Chase. But that would have been tough in a real draft. Slim pickings. It always feels like slim pickings. Draft classes always feel so rich until you get into the draft, and then you're like, wow, second round's rough, man. Though, to be honest, I prefer most of these second round picks to these first round picks right now. Brevin Jordan's interesting, but, even though I like him, if you draft a tight end, even in the third round, you're basically tying yourself into holding on to him for 3 years with no value increase. And that's just rough. Like, I can hit on a running back or a wide receiver here and then maybe trade for Jordan at the same price this time next year. Sage Surratt, I haven't looked at him closely, but I keep hearing his name. I don't think he's going to be someone I like too much. I get the sense he's just a late breakout last year wonder kind of a player. Hey, where's my database? There it is. I'm going to look up Sage live, as it were. Because I've heard that name. Sage Surratt, Wake Forest. So he played with Isaiah McCoy, right? No, that was Kent State. Who else was on Wake Forest? Was that Dimey, maybe? No. I swear someone else was on Wake Forest. Who is it I liked from Wake Forest once upon a time? Greg Dortch, okay. And Michael Campanaro. Okay, I kind of like where he's coming from. I don't hate that. Sage Surratt. Broke out at 21 years old. That's pretty much all he did. And he broke out at the 30% dominator threshold. Most of it yards. That's neat. Although actually, 35% touchdown share. I don't think I like Sage Surratt. That's just my off-the-cuff opinion. But yeah, probably not. And I can tell you, it would be Tutu for me probably here, unless there was a running back I really liked. And I don't see one. I don't remember one. Jarrett Patterson, Felton, maybe. I don't know. I haven't broken into him too much. Elijah Mitchell. I've got ranks around here somewhere, right? Well, I got tiers at least. Yeah, all the ones I really like are gone, apart from maybe Patterson, maybe Sermon. Sermon gone? Yeah, we said Trey Sermon had already gone, didn't we? Nope. Good Lord. All right, so yeah, I think I'm taking a shot in Tutu here. Third round wide receiver. I have rostered way too many of them for too long. Ramondre Stevenson and Brevin Jordan went the very next pick. So I think we've got a handle on ADP, despite what I keep getting told. I like Nico Collins here. Nico Collins, interesting name. I don't know him well enough, or at all, to be clear. Collins. I don't think he's actually in the ADP. And I definitely haven't broken his profile down yet. I'm so lazy. Haven't got to half these players. But yeah, Brevin Jordan and Tutu seem to be a third round pick, and I kind of like that. This guy called Pat Ferriman went before Brevin Jordan at tight end, and I don't quite understand that. Murray Rogers, Dwayne Eskridge, the end of the third. Elijah Mitchell, Sage Surratt went fourth round here, by the way. But buddy old pal, so that's good news for you if you like him. Eskridge. I'm struggling to put knowledge to that name. Wide receiver, he went at the end of the third. And I would have Tutu over him. I can tell you that. I like Tutu kind of a lot. Nico Collins, Long Hunter, Jarrett Patterson, Anthony Schwartz, and Demeric Felton, who's pretty much the last name on the list I was interested in. I haven't broken into nearly enough running backs. That's what this is telling me. Tyler Vaughns, look at that. I'm kind of out of names, to be honest. Most of the guys I really know well enough to draft are already gone. I kind of like how the draft went, though. Jamar Chase, Chuba Hubbard, and Tutu Atwell. I liked how far Michael Carter fell as well. Yeah, Waddle and I like Smith, to be fair. I don't mind in the end of the first, but Waddle, also some desperation running back and quarterback plays and taking the tight end early fifth is pushing some wide receiver and running back value down. According to MFL and Sleeper, Puka Williams, you got it, buddy. I've heard that. I swear I've heard that name somewhere. Did Roto Underworld do a video on him or something? I like the shout out to the Harvey film. Okay, after Puka Williams, it's Stevenson, Marquez Stevenson, Sam Ellinger, Kenny Yeboah, which I definitely said wrong. Jamie Newman, and that's 4 rounds. I like it. As a tool, if you just want to do a quick startup and you want to play around with what your draft pick's going to be. Like obviously we won last year, so how about we have the 12th pick? I got to restart the draft. And that's a 12-team league too, which you can alter to 10-team. Nice. I think it's a neat little tool. But rookie drafts are going to get on real quick since you've already seen roughly the ADP. Anyone want to do an actual draft? I'm posting the links to both Andy's Twitter page and his website here. It's just neat. Let's draft. Okay. 12-team league. Yeah. What draft pick do you want to take? And we're going super flex just because there's no point in quarterbacks otherwise. Anyone got a preferred draft slot? I like going towards the end, just kind of playing out worst case scenario. Since we can't trade anyway. Jamar Chase late first. I would definitely take that. Discord. Come on, Discord. You gotta have a preferred draft slot. Nope. 10? 6 or 10? I got 2 votes. I'm just taking 10 because it's later. All right, let's go. Pat Mahomes, that makes sense. Christian McCaffrey, Deshaun Watson. The app hasn't heard the news, apparently. Wow, Andy, you just love... He's got quarterbacks so ramped up in Superflex, but apparently that's based on ADP. Wow, that gives us a lot of options at the 10th pick. Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley went. Top of the board, running backs. We've got Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara, so we can draft them to trade them, I guess. I'm not looking at running back at the end of the first, but look at it. DK Metcalf. Man, it sucks not being able to trade. It's Jefferson, AJ Brown, or Metcalf. We're pretending it's a dynasty league. You could go Adams if you just want to go all in. Let's win this year, I guess. But dynasty-wise, his value can't go up. And when we've got the turn pick on the 10th, I kind of like to double tap. Production comes later. Ripped Cole Beasley cracked me up today. Yeah, I was pretty proud of that tweet. I actually shared it with my nerd group. I was like, I'm proud of this one. It's sad to be proud of tweets, but I honestly thought that one just wrote itself. I enjoyed that. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning it. Yeah, if we could draft Ronda Moore right here, that'd be great. Well, that's the thing. Personally, I'm always looking to do both. That's kind of why I like the turn picks as well, because you can kind of split it, go value and production. I mean, we can try and hit Adams and Hopkins based on this ADP. Running backs are going to come flying off the board here at the turn of the third, and I'm just not I like these running backs, but Alvin Kamara and Cook are the obvious neck picks. So's Henry and Chubb, but that means these young running backs, they're going to be productive, which is just great to have in Dynasty, like Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even Swift. And I'm not the highest on Swift, but still, are going to be around, so I can grab one of them later. I haven't come in with like a draft strategy or this is how I draft leagues idea. I just thought a casual draft would be more fun. I hate the way it gets rid of the names if I zoom in too far. That's no fun. Can you see it better that way? On DLF, yeah, but apparently this is MFL and Sleeper too, and that's kind of a gift to us here at the end of the first round. You can take your pick. I mean, I'd tell you outright, my thoughts are to double tap wide receiver, and I'm probably grabbing my favorite young player and one of the spots, and either DeAndre Hopkins or Adams next. And I don't. Well, he's got ADP listed here. That's nice. If we want Metcalf, we have to take him now. Antonio Brown, AJ Brown is going to be available to us after the turn. So is Justin Jefferson. Because, unfortunately, the app is stuck on ADP, so I don't think it's allowed to circumvent it too much. And it's still got Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook to take before us, which just gives us a free shot at double tapping wide receiver, in my opinion. So you could go Metcalf and Jefferson, Metcalf and AJ Brown, and just go super young and super production. Or you can go super certain with Devonte Adams or DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I have no fear of them in 2021, whereas with Metcalf and the Seahawks, I have concerns. And Justin Jefferson and the Juju curse, literally the Juju curse at this point. There's still concerns that Jefferson couldn't produce, and you can get some of these young wide receivers who were productive last year later as well. This is a problem with wide receiver. The highest value wide receivers, it's tough to really separate them out. So I'll pick if you just want me to, but I was wondering what your thoughts were. It's March. This is the best we can do. Damn right. I agree. I see QBs flying off the board. Yeah, I'll take 1 year of Ben Roethlisberger if I really have to, or I'll, to be fair, I don't think Deshaun Watson's going this high in drafts by the time we get around to the season. Herbert at 110 is nice. That's fair. If you did want to go quarterback, that's the thing. You can't get rid of good quarterbacks no matter how hard you draft him. You've got Herbert. I'm not prone to taking Herbert. I think he's got touchdown regression coming. I don't think he has rushing upside to produce that nice fantasy floor. He's not Patrick Mahomes, so he's just good. And unless it's a Patrick Mahomes level difference maker, I'm not taking a quarterback early. That's my opinion on it. But if you guys want to, just to see how it works out, I would. Or we could. Well, hell, give me the last few years of Matt Ryan down in the 50s here. Derek Carr, that's fine. That's normally where I'm looking. I normally underdraft the first tier after Patrick Mahomes, and overdraft the second tier is my rough way of thinking about Superflex drafts. I enjoyed hearing F. Okay, cool. Hearing your thoughts on the process. Okay, I appreciate it. Fade Metcalf. Yeah, that's the thing. And that's honestly why I paused and didn't just put in two names in here. Metcalf would be consensus here. Like he's 6.7 according to the ADP in the calculator. I think we're getting him at a value. And I don't typically draft to trade, but where you can't trade in this draft, yeah, Metcalf would be a solid pick here because you could then just presumably trade him afterwards and you can get your next favorite wide receiver on the turn. I think we're going to have our choices. See, what my mind's on and why this is difficult is because I got Terry McLaurin in my top 12, and I don't have to take him for 2 rounds yet. So I can get this level of player later, I think, based on my personal rankings, or Calvin Ridley. You got Stephon Diggs here, I guess, because he's 28 now. Chris Godwin. It tends to be the tier I plummet, but tell you what, we could just go running back and see how it works out. If this is my dynasty team, to be very clear, I think I take and knowing this ADP and the fact I'm in a calculator, I think I take DK Metcalf here, and then I run it back with Justin Jefferson or AJ Brown, depending on who was there, or in that order if both were there. I think that's what I'd do if it was my dynasty team. I get value and production, and I think I'm going to get running backs on the third and fourth turn. The app could surprise me there, though. That's where ADP stops being useful. If Miles Sanders and Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't there in the third and fourth, I'm in trouble. And I'd probably keep going wide receiver. But what we could do is play out, like, the best way of building this team from here, given this, would probably be to take Kamara, then take Cook, and then hit those wide receivers we were talking about later, depending on what happens. Decent question, Magnus. I like Russell Wilson, but I'm not drafting a quarterback this early, especially not one. Not especially not one. Russell Wilson deserves to be there, but he's a top 5 quarterback, and we're getting him after the top 5. So I wouldn't fault you on taking Russell Wilson here, but I'm just not taking a quarterback that high. He doesn't make that much of a difference. Patrick Mahomes is the only one that has been taken so far. And frankly, I think picks 3 to 6 and 9 are just gifting us any wide receiver or running back we want by taking them. Like, I think we can. I don't think these guys are going to hurt us playing them week to week for the next 3 years at all. I don't care. Whereas I think they're going to be real upset if we did well with our wide receivers or running back picks here. They're going to be real upset to be playing them the next 2 years. They're going to have to match my production, and I can match their production later in this draft. But that's just me. I don't have some big mainstream strategy to sell you all on. It's just casual draft ideas. Yeah. I think that's becoming more and more standard. I was just looking at those. I don't know if I can pull it up that quick. But I was looking at those ATP trends, and frankly, you want to take running backs really early or really late. That's kind of the new zero RB, if you like. All right, let's just do that. If we can. Did it crash on me? It might have crashed on me. I think I broke your app, Andy. All right, let's try again. But yeah, double attacking running like this is fine, I think. I can't take that long to pick. I think that's the problem. Ooh, it's thinking. Oh, it mixed it up. It did mix it up. It took Justin Herbert instead of Dak Prescott there, but we're going to go running back, we said, right? So take Alvin Kamara. We'll take it. Oh, Dalvin Cook went before us. That puts us in a bit of a pickle. If we want to keep going running back, I'm avoiding Derrick Henry. Nick Chubb is way too high valued. I like him later. I don't like him now. I'm not a big DeAndre Swift fan. I think he's way overhyped. J.K. Dobbins I was a fan of, but I did not enjoy his rookie season. Cam Akers and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is where it comes to, and I want to roll the dice there. Honestly, I want to roll the dice and see if he comes back to me. And so what I'm going to do, go real quick. See, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown are the ones that come to mind right here. DeAndre Hopkins for points, though. Terry Godwin as an Evans later just really means you don't, like, I'm okay not fading wide receivers so hard this early. You're right. You agree with Nick? I agree. DJ Moore in the 4th round. Exactly. You know what I mean? All right. I guess we'll take a young running back here then, which is against my better intuition. I like Cam Akers. Is anyone going to lose their minds if we take him instead of Swift? Like, I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but apparently he's a whole round later. All right, we're taking Akers. DeAndre Swift, Joe Burrow, DeAndre Hopkins. I probably should have taken him. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, AJ Brown. There goes my hero. Ezekiel Elliott. Wow, that's really high. Nick Chubb, that's really high. Running backs gets thin quick for some people, right? When you don't like small guys who catch passes, it gets thin real quick. Tyreek Hill, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, which is it's pretty decent value here in the 3rd round for Henry. Baker Mayfield. Team 4 here is just playing for next year, I guess. J.K. Dobbins, Ryan Tannehill. God dang. Taking it to us. Trevor Lawrence. Wow. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's quarterback 13 for Trevor Lawrence. Okay. Then Travis Kelce, because that team doesn't like winning. Pick 9 took CeeDee Lamb, which makes me sad. Sad in my heart. Justin Jefferson's still sitting here. Oh, we're good with Akers. Good. I was going to go running back there. I was like, why don't we just do the opposite of me and take Clyde Edwards-Helaire right here, or Miles Sanders? But, like, let's see if one of them falls, and we'll just take this strapping young wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. Yeah, Jefferson at 4. What's going on with your app, Andy? Is he here now? Andy, get in here and explain your app. I just barely did a startup. T. Lawrence went 205. Surprised he lasted to 307 in this mock. Yeah, people love Lawrence. As a non-quarterback evaluator, I have to wait to see it. And I'm okay not hitting on the... I mean, the only quarterback that was worth that is going back is Andrew Luck. You know? Really. JJ, good with me. Cool. Crazy value. Yeah, I really like getting Justin Jefferson there. And let's see what happened. Yeah, I get my choice of the same wide receivers I would have taken. I like picking 10th overall, and I can still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Miles Sanders. I'm going to roll the dice on running back for a little longer here, just because it's going so well. And take the guy, Terry McLaurin, who I completely missed on and owned me last year. Going to make up for it. Well, I'm not playing catch-up. I don't understand production evaluated outside of context. You know, we always want wide receivers to have good quarterbacks, as if it meant this Terry McLaurin getting it done without it. It just kind of shut me up. Might have been a bad pick, actually, because Terry McLaurin's got no draft capital, so if he fails this year, his value will likely drop. Oh, shoot! Yeah! I completely messed that up. Michael Thomas was still on the board. How did none of us notice that? I was actually keyed up for that. Like, I was waiting for that. I completely forgot. Shoot. That is the worst draft value I've seen in the last 4 years, by the way. Michael Thomas falling to, like, he's like wide receiver 5 or something right now. Where's my draft picker-upper helper? Yeah, according to March ADP, Michael Thomas is... Wow. He's wide receiver 11 right now in DLF ADP. Just stupid crazy. I don't have to, you know, be enamored with him to notice that that's just silly. Calvin Ridley went, though. That's sad. Chris Godwin went. Hang on. Let's see. I took Terry McLaurin. Probably a mistake there, but still. Jared Goff, Antonio Gibson, Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I rolled the dice too far. And Chris Godwin, Matthew Stafford, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Najee Harris, T. Higgins, Justin Fields. Thinking. Matt Ryan. Okay, we might need... You know what? When the market pushes you, you just push right on back. So I think I'm going to keep ignoring quarterback. And Ridley, haha, I'm mostly listening, so didn't see. Yeah, that's your excuse. I don't know what mine is. This is where I start panicking about quarterback. Yeah, and that's true. But honestly, that's my attitude in a draft. The market's pushing me. I'm just going to push right on back. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater just went, we're in trouble. We may as well just kind of sink into the trouble, I guess. Let's see. Planning our picks. Next, it was Najee Harris, T. Higgins. Najee Harris is a fifth-round pick. T. Higgins is a fifth-round pick. Yeah, that's fair. Justin Fields, Matt Ryan, Teddy Bridgewater, DJ Moore. Oh, I'm sad again. Austin Eckler might be one of the better values I've seen right here. That's interesting in the fifth round. Mike Evans, especially if you got value earlier, which they did. Team 7 here is kind of killing it. Mike Evans, Joe Mixon, and then us again. I don't know about you, but I don't want to pick any of these quarterbacks in the 5th, 6th round. But we're running out of quarterbacks. Hey, that's not fair. That's not fair. I'm allowed to take shots. I don't know. Let's see how bad we can make it here. Aaron Jones is still around. So is Kareem Hunt, Travis Etienne. That's about it, apparently. Oh, James Robinson. Oh, James Robinson's still here. We're taking James Robinson. Jerry Judy's here, which I like. So is Allen Robinson. Brandon Ayuk. Keenan Allen. Cortland Sutton. Hey, we could take Jamar Chase again. Juju Smith-Schuster. I think we're taking James Robinson. We're winning this year. If we can get any kind of quarterback production in a little while. Sorry, I just unilaterally decided that. Those QBs picks there, Hurts and Cousins is why I like QB early rather than... Yeah, that's the thing. You like your team better, but your team's not significantly better. I get it. But I would rather have one position I have to think about than 3. You know what I mean? I feel pretty comfortable at wide receiver, pretty comfortable at running back for the next 2 years. You know, I've taken a few shots. Jefferson could juju, to be fair. Terry McLaurin is stuck in Washington, so that could struggle. But wide receiver production's easier to make up, to be fair, even within this draft. And I don't think their value is going to drop drastically. Not even Juju's tanked. And we've got solid running backs, so all we need is quarterback production. Whereas the other teams now have to match that. And it's harder to match running back and wide receiver production the later we get. Well, that's my general thoughts. Like, this isn't an actual team. God knows if I'd be happy. Darren Waller, just gifting us more picks. Allen Robinson's a solid pick at the end of the 5th round. Daniel Jones, good luck. Drew Luck, good luck. You see, like, Team 11's just taken 4 quarterbacks. This is the John Bosch team. That's John Bosch behind the scenes drafting Team 11, I'm pretty sure. All right. Round 6. Carson Wentz has upside in Indianapolis, to be honest. Derek Carr is just a solid pick, so, you know, I'll be fine rolling him out against all but Patrick Mahomes above him, to be honest with you. Like a quarterback options right here. It's almost like someone faded them. Sam Darnold, I don't mind, but we don't have to. Well, according to this app, we have to stress about it right now. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be later. So is Tom Brady. Yeah, I'm rolling dice again. I'm just not taking them in the 6th round. I don't care how hard the market pushes me, apparently. Running backs I'm about done with at this value. Aaron Jones, Kareem Hunt, Travis Etienne, maybe. But we've already got 3 running backs I'm okay with, so Wide receivers where it's at. Juju will be picked next round-ish, according to my DLF ADP, who I like. We've got Keenan Allen. Brandon Ayuk isn't a bad pick here. Actually, I like these top 3 wide receivers. Kittle's already gone, so I'm done with tight end. I guess we could take quarterback, but I'm just fine with getting Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger if I think they'll last. They might not, according to this ADP the app's got for me. Brady, yeah, Brady's solid. Team 11 hates running backs. It really does. Don't go that way. Take Aaron Jones. Get the best value and then trade. Aaron Jones have a lot of value in trade right now? Did I miss something? I thought we all hated him now. Would you trade Jerry Jeudy or Amari Cooper or Brandon Ayuk, maybe, or Keenan Allen for Aaron Jones right now? I don't know. I'd trade Cortland Sutton or Jamar Chase for him right now. Could be wrong. My running back valuation tends to be wrong. All right. We'll take Aaron Jones. I'm a man of the people. Would you want to bet the next pick's Tom Brady? I think Aaron Jones is good, don't get me wrong. I've thought that for a long time. You're right, that's probably the right pick there. Yeah, there's Tom Brady. Okay. I just need startable level quarterback play. Because we're not getting one in trade. Team 11 can suck it. Screw you, John Bosch. Remember, in a startup, these first 5 picks are the most valuable assets we have. That tends to be the way I think of it. This is the most valuable asset you'll ever had in a dynasty team. Those first 5 picks. They're more valuable than rookie picks, which is why I do not understand taking rookies in the first 5. I mean, if it hits, it hits. It's great. If not, you're just throwing away something you literally never get back, and there'll never be anything as valuable, except for maybe like a Patrick Mahomes or Christian McCaffrey at that height. And I don't see any of these rookies doing that. Like Saquon Barkley was in the conversation back when, and I thought that was fair. Andrew Luck could have been in the year he came out. This year's rookies? I don't know about that. Son. Aaron Jones, Tom Brady, Brandon Ayuk, which is good to see. I was worried people were like, I don't want to take him, but if he's falling from here, he starts to become really interesting because he had a great rookie season. Derek Carr, Robert Woods, Mark Andrews, just more tight ends. Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, sheesh. I mean, Team 4 is getting a little desperate on the quarterback issue right now. Amari Cooper. Keenan Allen. Stalled. Don't stall out on me now. I want to know who the last pick is. Oh, Juju Smith-Schuster. Oh, yeah, I told you he was going to be picked. You see, he's a 7th round pick in regular single quarterback ADP right now, so that's high. It's kind of what I was talking about on the podcast. He can be ranked, outside the top 24 wide receivers all he likes. I don't think people are valuing him there, and I think that's why everyone thinks of him as overrated. Or that's why I get into arguments on Twitter about him anyway. Cortland Sutton, good pick in the 7th round. Trade him to Team 11. Yeah, exactly. Bosch is always willing to trade. He's always willing to rip you off in a trade. I mean trade. If you had the 101, would you take CMC on Mahomes? In Superflex, I would take Patrick Mahomes. I mean, there are just some players that they don't fit into theory, and I just accept that. Luckily, I was able to accept it pretty early. Like I had him as a rookie pick. But, you know, you don't worry about running backs winning leagues when you got Calvin Johnson year 2 on the block, you know? Calvin Johnson, Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning for quarterback as well. He was one of those guys. Le'Veon Bell. There are very few that's just forget theory. You just don't. You just take them over other players. No, it's not tight end premium, but they're sure drafting like it, aren't they? It's just super flex as far as I know. I like the way it's shaking it up every draft. Like we've had 2 different drafts and the ADP's been different every time, despite the fact it's using ADP and he's got it mixing it up a little bit, which means you can do more than one draft, getting practice in, or just getting a sense of the market, which is more what I'm doing, without it just being repetitive. You know who you're going to take at each pick, and that would be ridiculous. He's put some work in on this, to be honest. Even got a little ellipses telling you it's thinking, not dead. I like it. Cooper Kupp. I don't mind taking a stab at Jamar Chase. By the time we get to the 7th round, okay. For that kind of profile, I don't mind it. And then, is that us? No, that's not us. Oh, TJ Hawkinson went. Just go on with you already. Okay, Travis Etienne is just sitting there. I know we're heavy running back already. No, we really need to think about quarterback, I guess. Oh, look, it adds more players as you go on. Nice. Zack Wilson, no idea. I'm taking the upside shot in Carson Wentz here. And I might, like, if it was my actual team, I might push it farther, but I'm worried I'll give someone an aneurysm if I keep doing that. I do think Wentz can be at least Rivers in Indianapolis for a year. And I'm looking for a year. This late, I'm just looking for a year's worth of decent production, and I think there's upside with Wentz. But, I recently heard insiders think he's actually bad, which, insiders are also the one that drafted him, so. And Indianapolis has proven to be a better talent scout than most insiders, and they think he can sustain production for at least a year. Damn it, I was hoping Ben fell to me there. Why would you take Ben there, Team 11? What's your plan? Other than to get Aaron Jones off me. Team 11 sucks. Oh, you went Wentz too? Appreciate it, Nick. Yeah. He's got a little youth, a little draft capital, in a new situation on a better team, a better managed team. I don't hate that. Jerry Jeudy went late 7th. See, I kind of love all these wide receivers in this range, but very few of them have the higher upside up above. That's kind of why I like Allen and Juju Smith-Schuster and Amari Cooper. I think they do. All these guys are top 24 guys. I think are good top 24 guys. So you're kind of paying for what you'll probably get. And that includes Sutton, who I like a lot. And Jerry Jeudy, I think he's a top 24 guy too. Tyler Lockett's just kind of insane value. Why is Tyler Lockett insane value every year? All right, back on the clock. I guess Sam Darnold is honestly the one that interests me the most. On the list we've got Zack Wilson, Taysom Hill, nope. Mitchell Trubisky in Buffalo, apparently. Trey Lance, I don't know anything about Trey Lance other than he's a rookie quarterback, and that's kind of cool. And then Sam Darnold on the Jets. Do they still have Adam Gase? I have yet to check. Can we just do a quick fact check there? head coach of New York Jets. Nice. It is not Adam Gase. That is not Adam Gase's name, so I'm pretty happy. What is he now? Did I miss that news? Because I'm happy about that. I really don't tune into NFL news until the draft. Current occupation unlisted. I like the sound of it. All right. Sam Darnold minus Adam Gase. I'll take a shot. Appreciate it, Nick. They got a 49ers guy now. I don't care. Players seem to like Slay. I imagine people like Adam Gase. He doesn't come across as a nice guy, but I mean, it's a very close environment. I imagine working in a sports industry, so you've got to at least be, personable. I don't mean to throw shade at such a public figure, but he's a public figure, so it's fair game. But honestly, I don't know the man. I just know I hate having players on his teams, unless it's Peyton Manning, unless it's Peyton Manning's team. Gabe Davis went in the 8th. That's wow. Love to see the guy getting some love. I don't know I can do it. It's thinking. It's really confused about our New York Jets pick. Zack Wilson. I mean, Andy, I get it. Quarterback's valuable. I mean, this is based on ADP, apparently. People are just nuts for him. Travis Etienne went finally. 8th round. Where can we set up a live mark, actually? I don't even know. Sleeper, I guess. Kenny Golladay went in the 8th after Juju Smith-Schuster still. And yeah, ADP lags behind at best, to be fair. 2 rounds after him, though. Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to be better at it. It's not that, having a Twitter following amounts to much. I get it. I'm not important. And I'm not even that big. But like occasionally people will tag players in my posts now more than they used to. And they don't know, coming in blind. They don't know I'm not talking about them as people or them as football players. I'm talking about them in terms of fantasy. I could understand how you can get in your feels about it. So I'm trying to throw out the disclaimer more often. Kenny Golladay, AJ Dillon. Wow. No. Bad ADP. Bad team 4. Myles Gaskin. I kind of like the balls on that pick in the 8th round. I like the guts, sorry. Then Corey Davis, my one true love, obviously. Corey Davis below, and Kenny Golladay below Gabriel Davis. Yeah, I think I'm just out on the Gabe Davis train. I've been out on the DJ Chark train for a while. Going well so far. Ooh, that's a smart pick in the 8th round. Odell Beckham. Last pick in the 8th. Toit, some might say. Is Trey Lance any good? We got any quarterback fans out there? Kyle Pitts went 9. Okay. Should we make a prediction who our tight end's going to be? Probably name him. I think I'd take the 1 year left of Julio over most of these wide receivers. That's actually fair. I've even forgotten he was still here. This is why I need my draft sheet. But yeah, Julio would be a good pick around here. Lance probably sit for a year, but he's got potential. Okay. That to me means his value will hold for a year at least. And given our quarterback situation, that's probably what I got my mind on. He's a project. Cool. Will he be worth about the same next year as he is right now? Best guess. That's the only way I'm taking a quarterback here. I'm not taking Mitchell Trubisky. Julio Jones went 9th. Yeah, I definitely like him over a lot of those wide receivers that were just taken. Tyler Boyd, though, same thing. Dang. People don't know what they got. Seriously. You're going to have a team with Tyler Boyd, Julio Jones, and, Tyler Lockett, and just draft running backs until then. It's getting hard. It's getting hard out in these streets to defend zero RB with people like wanting to draft younger players just because they're younger. Robert Woods, why does he get the bum? Robert Woods is still good. Oh, Julio Jones is still good too, and he's always been better. I don't know. Oh, Trey Lance actually went. Pick 5 in the 9th round. All right, we're out on that. Michael Pittman went. I'm not too upset about that. There's upside there in the 9th round. That's okay. Landing spot will dictate his value. I assume. My guess is he gets thrust into starting role this year. Value will be low QB1, high QB2 next year. Yeah, it's kind of what my thoughts were without knowing anything about the player. Brandon Cooks. Wow. Yeah, it's hard not to think we shouldn't have just gone harder on running back. But I like the wide receivers we got over these guys are fine, and we went mostly running back outside of those. So. Donald Mooney. There's better value than Gabriel Davis, I'll say that. And kicking things over. It's all falling apart. Donald Mooney, Robert Tonyan. Okay, I thought he'd fall a little further. I like the symmetry of our first 6 picks. Red, red, blue, blue, red, red. Followed by green, green. It looks pretty, you know what I mean? Symmetry is underrated. Oh, we're on the clock after Robert Tonyan. Okay. Noah Fant's still here. So's Dallas got it. Philadelphia is a hard team to buy into. I think I'd take Goddard, Fant, then Ingram. But let's see what's left. I mean, Connor's just sitting here. Oh, there we go. Will Fuller and Adam Thielen are the one that stick out to me at wide receiver. Will Fuller's got lots of upside, man. We're going to take Thielen because, of course, we're going to take Thielen. When someone drafts Michael Pittman ahead of Adam Thielen, you just take Adam Thielen. You just do that. That's like a dynasty rule, right? Really? I think my stream's lagging because the thing has to think so hard. I think we'll go to 10 rounds here. Going further seems like suicide. Noah Fant went next. Still thinking. Oh no, there we go. So Laviska Shenault. Again, I'm not a big fan, but I can't hate him there, although I would take Will Fuller over him. I just love the upside of Will Fuller. This is about mid-range in a draft, right? I think that's a fair description. Pick 8, 9, 10. You're still looking for starters, but the significant upside with some proven production. Jarvis Landry's still here. Come on. Anyway, and my mind definitely just skews straight towards upside. Like, this isn't where I want to get my floor. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think we're getting lucky. Fighting against a computer is... Although it's not strictly... It's an algorithm based on actual real-world decisions, at least. Fair play to Andy, though. I mean, it's struggling a little bit while I stream here, but this is fairly timely. You get to wait and think before you make your pick. It's fun. It's colorful. It's really easy to use. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing well with it. And since I don't know about you guys, I don't have a lot of friends. Mock drafting becomes difficult, finding 12 people to fit a league. I think this is going to be useful this offseason. And you can do rookies or startup drafts. It's neat. Just a free little thing. I know he's gone already. Just curious. You still don't like Chark even Lawrence? No. I mean, I have my flaws. I've got lots of them, and I try and make them real clear. But I think Chark was a decent college player who had a one-hit wonder year in college. So I'm never going in the NFL, and I don't think it's ever going to circle back around to happening again. There's not really anything that can happen or change that. And there's plenty of reasons why that's a bad idea, because you've got to look for marginal value or, small sample value, because he could start for some games and be great. And I could be wrong. But I'm more of an all or nothing type evaluator, I guess. I just don't think it's going to happen for Chuck. Who was it I traded? I traded him for Mike Gesicki as it was happening, and people called me crazy. And I guess still kind of is crazy, but like I think I've done fine in that trade. Like a terrible year for Mike Gesicki between here and there, and a terrible year from Chuck. A tight end premium league is fine. So I'll pick again. So last pick in the 10th round. I would probably go Will Fuller, but or Jalen Rager. I mean, Jarvis Landry. Jesus. Let's see. There's no quarterbacks left. I'll tell you what. Let's pick our tight end because I don't think I'm going past round 10. I think it's strange everyone is low on Dallas Goedert after hitting on him. The same thing that happened to Ingram. I was low on Ingram. He hit. Everyone else went lower than me. It was weird. Same with Goedert. I kind of didn't see it happening. Then it did happen. Now everyone's lower than me, even though I didn't move. So I don't know what people want because when these tight ends hit, they seem to get lower on them. So that was weird. But all of these guys, even Hunter Henry and Jonas Smith-Schuster, look like fine. I'll get some use out of them. I can start them until maybe I try and find the next George Kittle or the next Travis Kelce for myself. I think of this group. Ingram's interesting, but I think I like Goddard more. I think he's probably, unless Jalen Rager hits, probably Dallas Goedert is the best receiver in that offense, and I'm not sure Ingram is in his. So I'd probably go Goddard here. No problem, man. Ryan says, fair enough on chalk. Thanks. Yeah, I'm weird like that. It's just an opinion. You should never weight your own opinions against it. Just whatever use it is. Cade Otton, discuss. That's it. No, I haven't dug into him yet. I have heard the name. So as far as I can go for you. He's a tight end, right? Yeah, Cade Otton. Quickly. Looks good. A lot depends on athleticism, unfortunately, for tight ends, and also draft capital, and also where they land. He's coming in a little older than Brevin Jordan and Kyle Pitts, which is okay. I mean, a year at tight end makes no difference to me. He did play 3 full years, which is a fairly unusual route for a tight end that's going to succeed. I actually think he's one of the most efficient producers at volume in this tight end class, and that's just using this efficiency score, which is yards per team pass attempt over conference average. You can't see this. There we go. See this 1.6 score? That means he was 1 yard per team pass attempt above the conference average for tight ends in his final year, which means he was exceptionally good, essentially. I found this a big thing to actually rank classes by, interestingly enough. And Cade Otton has the lead on it, even over Jordan and Pitts, who I like better. Let me see. I was going to try and show you how it ranks. All right. It would put Cade Otton, Trey McBride, and Brevin Jordan 1, 2, and 3 in this year's class. If we dig back a little bit, it would have ranked last year's class Harrison Bryant, Giovanni Ricci, apparently, then Harrison Bryant. But last year's class is a bit of a tough, if that's true or not. Let's dig back. In 2019, it had Caleb Wilson above Keenan Brown, followed by Jace Sternberger, who I didn't think was drafted that year, actually. And then KJ Hawkinson and Josh Oliver, who I did like as a deep tight end in that year. Like I say, these aren't great ranks, but as far as ranks go for one single metric across a class, this is actually pretty fire. Mark Andrews is at the top of the 2018 class, which is nice. Mike Gesicki comes in a deep 5th or so. But the right names tend to surface towards the top. I actually like Troy Fumagalli, apparently. Digging back further, Ingram came at the top of the 2017 class, followed by Gerald Everett, which feels about right. OJ Howard slips way down there, actually. 2016, Hunter Henry came out the top of his class. What are these guys scoring? Yeah, they're scoring exceptional, like over 1 yard, which is around about what Cade did. So yeah, Cade looks interesting, but that's just a brief look, obviously. I haven't done any due diligence there. Playing in the Pac-12 North, the NFL drafts that conference about 6% of the time compared to other conferences at the tight end position since 2000. Fairly decent hit rate from there. A model liked him well. It gave him a 6 score, which is pretty. Used to be one of the highest scores I saw out of the tight end position. Till Kittle and Ingram came along. But yeah, K. Dalton looks like a pretty decent producer. His final year was better, I would say, at least in terms of yards per team pass attempt, in his situation on the conference that he was playing in other words, than Trey McBride and Brevin Jordan. And Brevin Jordan, I liked his production profile a lot. This is kind of a fire year compared to last year for tight ends. Yeah, I'm just going to take Dallas Goedert, by the way, in round 10. Oh, yeah, I like this little app. Be sure to check it out. Give Andy a follow. Let him know what you think of it, because he's still working on it, is the thing. He's trying to improve it, so let him know what he can do. He's remarkably responsive. Like, the reason you can select your draft position, I think, is because of a suggestion someone made in that little nerd group chat I've got, and stuff like that. So, yeah, if it's useful and he can do it, he's been inserting it. And like I said, if you want a mock draft and you can't find 11 friends, it's free and really easy. Like, I just figured out how to use it. So it means it must be pretty easy. Arton was fun to watch. UW fan here, so I watched him a lot. Okay, some bias, I get it. Not sure if it'll be good pro or not. What makes you say that, though? Packers drafted Sternberger. Yeah, I remember. I just honestly didn't think he was drafted that year. For some reason, in my head, he's been in the league longer than that. Evan Ingram went next right after Goddard. I think this algorithm uses your picks to kind of try and guide the next few picks. It's an interesting little one. But yeah, we'll actually have to get a live mock draft going on stream sometime. Like, we'll get some people in, maybe some of you guys and girls, and some of the guys and girls who respond to my DMs every now and again. And we'll try and get a live mock draft on stream. In fact, one of the things I look forward to the most in the off season is the Open Bar tends to do a live mock draft with whoever will be on the podcast. Normally after the draft or before the draft, and that's always a fun show because most of the people are drunk on there, and the Open Bar is always fun. But I think if we could get a discount version going on stream, that'd be pretty interesting. Like, I don't know. I'm assuming a few of you would want a live mock with us. If anyone's got any other suggestions of people I could ask, let me know. I'm pretty sure I can get Zach Reed in here. He's normally down. He's normally down to do a mock draft if I can give him enough enough warning, that is, which I normally don't. Just checking it was still working. Sometimes I screw it up when I pull it. When I start filtering it. Live mark drafts right now. Let's do it. Where can we live mark right now? If anyone's got an app or a website I can go to, Salvatore, let me know. How quickly do you update the database following the NFL draft? No pressure. As quickly as I can. It really depends. Remember that I don't get... No, I don't want to mention that. I'm working 3 jobs right now. So people keep asking me if I want to do an hour or 2 here and there on draft coverage, and I would love to, but I can't even tell them when I'm available. So I get it done as fast as it's really quick once I can sit down with it, because I literally just have to enter the round number they are drafted, then save it all again, reformat it for the public database, and upload it. And some of that's automated. So it takes me a couple of hours to do. But it's when I can sit down with it. So it really depends on when I'm working one or three of my jobs, and also when I may or may not be doing live coverage of the draft for one or another live stream or podcast, whoever will have me. I'll hopefully be able to do it as we go. Yeah, I'm hoping to get it. Like last year, I felt pretty on point with it. I'm going to try and hopefully by the end of day one, by the time day two starts, the draft kit, the what do we call it? Database is already updated, and then I'll update for day two. But it really depends how my schedule rolls. It will definitely be uploaded that same week. Like I'll have all the updates done. The extra players I haven't quite added yet because I've got a few left to add. It'll be done by the end of that week. I can make that promise, if that makes sense. Thanks for checking out Otten. Such a grinder. Yeah, it was so much effort there, man. I just flicked over to that thing and took a glance at it. But yeah, no problem. And I enjoy when you guys point out players you're interested in, because I don't always have the best key on which player we're meant to look at or should look at. So when you guys mention someone, that gives me an advantage that, some hoity-toity analysts might not, because they don't listen to people. But like seriously, last year it was only by the grace of someone mentioning it that I even knew who James Robinson was, and it turns out Zach Reed had done some work on him, and so I actually knew who he was when he started getting some hype in the offseason. So yeah, mention anyone you can. I'm always happy to take a look. You're normally doing me a big favor than I'm doing you. Where can I find your redraft rankings? I don't really have redraft rankings. I have dynasty rankings, which are more redraft-ish than most dynasty rankers, because I do like to win. They're all on DLF. I also have them on Patreon, along with everything else on Patreon. I think that might be one of the ones that's behind the paywall, though. Sorry. I got to give Patreon something, man. They're literally funding my data addiction right now. Absolutely sit on your draft live stream, bruv. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Definitely cool to watch a live draft stream. I think so. I think it would be fun to do. But that's kind of why I like that app. It's actually difficult to get a group of people ready and willing to draft at a set time and a set place. I forget. I'm so casual about just turning the camera on. I think everyone is, but most people are more organized about their schedule. So yeah, but yeah, I'll try and get something like that done. Yeah, I'm meant to be talking about the FF Educator next week, I think. For some reason, I thought I had Twitter open there. About projections, and I didn't know if I was going to make that a live stream or not, or a podcast episode. Let's see, FF Educator, right? He's got a Patreon, and I saw him post projections. I was like, hey, I do those. Yeah, Matt Hicks. So I'm going to be talking about projections with him all next week. Maybe I'll learn a thing or two. That'd be nice. But definitely before the draft, I'd like to do some sort of mock draft. Do you think a rookie mock draft or an actual mock draft, like a startup mock draft, or both? Why not? Do both. Why not? Oh, God, so many. I actually think I have to update my ranks. We have to update them every 15 days for DLF. And it's probably been about 12 for me, because nothing's happened, damn it. Well, I guess Kenny Holiday moved. But I have the same opinion of him. I've got my dynasty rankings up here, and also how I differ on positional ranks compared to the average. of ranks. And then my rookies are really in tiers right now, much more than rankings, but they're ranked. I need like a mid tier for these two guys. Or another tier? Nah, I'm not doing another tier. I'm just gonna turn them white. Have to rank more running backs. I really have to break it. I've got so much to do, man. How do I get so behind? I swear I'm constantly working, and yeah, I'm always behind. Why does Twitter hate Devonte Smith and Ronda Moore? They don't. They don't. I know what you're feeling because I feel it in my small bubble too, but Ronda Moore, despite what that ADP, if ADP is suppressed, it's because some mainstream sites are more interested in. I honestly can't tell you how ESPN and NFL get it so wrong, and I mean get it wrong compared to themselves. Like they get draft capital a little better. I think they're such insiders right now. ESPN and NFL are such insiders that they know what teams like, and so they rank them based on expecting draft capital to be worth a shit, which it is. But that means you always get weird things like Ross and Laquan Treadwell like being hyped up by those mainstream analysts, and that filters into our little market. And so you've got everyone thinking those are great players when like your average dynasty player knew not really to favor the new Philip Dorsett that much. But it's hard to ignore when you've got these mainstream, really well paid, really good analysts telling you that John Ross could do something. And that's the opposite of what's happening with Smith and Moore right now. Because BMI Twitter is all over Devonte Smith, you might think that Devonte Smith is being undervalued. He's not. He's being very well valued. He had a great last season. He has good age-adjusted production in his last 2 years. He went to a good conference that the NFL loves. He's probably going to get draft capital. So the end of the first round, I think, is fair ADP for Smith, and I would be very surprised if he ever fell below that. In fact, I think he's probably going to be drafted above that. Ronda Moore, the question there is whether the NFL is going to spend draft capital on it. And the reason we think people hate them is because some people in the community honestly evaluate based on, physical metrics. It's not whether you're good at a certain physical metric, it's what physical metric you have, because you can't be good in the NFL if you're a different size than before. And I get the concern because you're playing against big, strong players, but being good at a sport is more than that. And it's more important than that. So I think Moore's going to be drafted relative to his draft capital. So if the NFL feeds him because they don't see it, then he'll be undervalued, and it'll be because of that draft capital. But right now, I think the noise we're hearing about both of them is just from small little camps that aren't going to affect the larger market. They could, especially if those ESPN and NFL sites start pumping it out. But like we just saw in that mock ADP, Devonte Smith's a late first-round pick. Rashad Bateman, who also has a draft capital problem, went 6th overall. Which is perhaps the other problem because he's as productive, but not quite as small as Ronda Moore. But and that was Superflex ADP as well. So I think that's just a function of our little Twitter bubbles, I think everyone's aware that Devonte Smith was pretty good, especially when he was let out the bag. I think the fact he had to be let out the bag by Judy leaving is problem, but he also outproduced Judy that 1 year, as I said in my video, so that's positive. I think he's a good player. Ronda Moore, he just might be a little under-noticed because I don't think anyone has a negative opinion. Some people are worried about his measurables, I get it, but no one who watches them or looks at the 1 year he played, there's nothing bad to say. And I was trying to say this to someone on Twitter the other day, and I think I said it badly and ended up offending people. But I think the reason you don't hear more Ronda Moore content is because we're trying to create engaging, interesting stuff to listen to. So the minute you've described how good he was, all there is to do is nod along with each other. And that's not interesting or engaging. Just seeing a group of 4 people go, yeah, I like him. Yeah, I like him too. You like him a lot? Yeah, I like him pretty well. Boy, he can jump, can't he? Yeah, he sure can jump. There's just, you need some level of discrepancy between the opinions being shared. And so I think that isn't. Now, there might now that he's been measured at 5'7" or whatever he is, you might see more content pushed on Moore, and that might make you feel better about liking Ronda Moore, because we'll have to justify the fact that his height might not be important as the fact he's good at that height. So yeah, and that's what led to my imagine fading ripped athletic Cole Beasley with draft capital. Couldn't be me tweet, because I think that's my argument boiled down to a T. Essentially, that's also me boiled down to a T, but there you go. So it's difficult because I get caught up in my Twitter bubble a lot. I tend to think players like or don't like players, as I understand it, which is why I do a lot of mock drafts. To be honest with you, and why I'm excited about that app from Andy, because your mileage may vary is a real thing. In your league, you've got one guy reading a magazine, you've got 4 people who only tune in when the season starts, and then you've got those 6 guys, right, that are just on point. They know their dynasty. And those 6 people, they might not like Moore's height, but they're not going to be unaware of him. They're not going to let him fall below a certain ADP because they're sharp. And same with Smith. Like those 6, 7 guys or girls in your league are going to know not to let Smith fall. So as exciting as it is to think that they might fall a little bit, I don't think they're going to fall in most leagues. But hey, when ESPN and NFL get on side of bandwagon, that's going to convince a lot of people. In which case, great. Great. I mean, Stefan Diggs was the 4th round pick. You can't draft that guy. T.Y. Hilton too. I went on a long time about that question. I apologize. But I've been thinking about it a lot in terms of like I've been told things that are just in my little Twitter bubble that are just completely the opposite of how I understand it. I've been told Elijah Moore is overrated despite having not seen him ranked in the top 12 at wide receiver for this class. And I've been told Devonte Smith is underrated despite not having seen him ranked outside the top 5 in this class. And I don't see or read or know everyone's opinion, obviously, but there is some sort of disconnect this year between who likes what player or what the market or what most of us like. I'm going to get rid of the screen, not because I don't mind hiding behind it, because that's actually pretty fun, but because it looks like it's kind of a tattoo at this point. So yeah, let me get rid of it. But yeah, it's interesting. There's a potential that could work in our favor because who people like and don't like isn't as clear this year as maybe some other years, which is interesting in and of itself, especially for a class which theoretically should be a down year. Like, we don't get 2014 and 2020 back to back. You don't get a 2020 class and then get another great class. I mean, there's no reason it couldn't happen, but historically, that's, the great classes tend to lead to disappointing classes because an average class is just disappointing after a class like 2020. So, and that normally leads to elevated ADPs. Well, yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. Elevated ADPs. Have I lost everyone? Probably. I'm going to get out of some quick stream today. Normally I go for a couple of hours, but the mock draft gave us a framework I almost can't ignore. I really think, by the way, I said it during the draft, but I think Fuller has upside. And Fuller's issue, Will Fuller, is always health. And I get it. I don't know if he's going to be healthy either. But whenever he is healthy, he's not like a good wide receiver. He's like a wide receiver 1. Like, I think that, remember those glimpses on, you might not listen to my podcast, those glimpses into the actual ability of a player to outplay their situation. Like, we saw that with Diggs. I vividly remember seeing that top 12 upside with Diggs a few times, and we've seen it with Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, Kenny Galladay's had a top 12 season, but I don't know we've seen glimpses of that level of outplaying your situation in the same way. I don't care if you like to use points per game, yards per team, pass attempt, or yards per route run. I think those players have better heights, and that's what I'm looking for. That, like in rookie evaluation, there's that ability to outpunch your situation. And I like Golladay a lot, and hopefully the team's better, and that's his path to being a top 12. But, like, Will Fuller's done it almost every single time he's healthy. He gets the volume and puts out top 12 numbers. He's just rarely been healthy. And he doesn't have a history of that. Like, in college, he was healthy. He didn't miss a lot of time. He's dealt with mostly with soft tissue injuries throughout his time in the NFL, I believe. And he also had that PED suspension. But, like, none of those are things that particularly have reoccurrence. Like, they should be overcomable. You know, he said the same thing about Alshon Jeffrey's hamstrings, I guess. But, like, for the price he's at now, there really is a lot of upside there. Sorry to get on that hobby horse, but I just saw someone tweet about him, and I was like, yeah, I need that out there again. Yeah, it's amazing to me how tank for Tua became taking Tua as tanking. Like, okay, we haven't quite seen enough of Baker Mayfield to quite write him off, but Tua's dead now. Weird. Cole Beasley is a more explosive Deontay Johnson. That's I appreciate that tweet. Anyway, yeah, I got Fuller for 2 second-round picks. Even that seemed high, but yeah, I mean, second-round picks. Unless you and to be honest, there is an adjustment to be made there. Like, how often you hit on second-round picks. You find it relatively easy to find the Antonio Gibsons and Chase Claypools. Fair enough, just keep taking your seconds. But I think most of us are fairly average at it. This year's second-round picks seem to be highly valuable based on the few glimpses I've got on what the market might look like in my rookie draft. Like, I can't tell you how much I like Taylor Wallace. And he's an afterthought in this class, and I don't expect more than 3 players at wide receiver to be particularly fantasy relevant. So, like, because that's the average. We're waiting for the draft. We're waiting for the draft to hit for stuff like that. But, like, I really like Taylor Wallace. Then again, I really like Denzel Mims, and I really like J.J. Sega-Whiteside. So, you know, take it for what it's worth. I would take Will Fuller over Taylor Wallace. So that's fair. 2 second-round picks. Would I take him over Taylor Wallace and Dimey Brown? Yes, actually. You know, that's decent. Just because I've seen him good in the NFL. That's the hardest hurdle to climb, in my opinion, whether you can actually do it in the NFL. Or whether you're going to is probably a fairer way of saying that. And as much as I'm trying to acquire CEH, nobody giving him up. Yeah, that's like the Juju Smith-Schuster thing. Everyone talks about how much they don't like him, and he's valued, as we saw in that mock draft, like outside the top 15 running backs or so. But he's not ranked as running back 15. He's ranked as a top 12 running back. He's still ranked based on his rookie ranking, which I agree with. Unfortunately, there's not a value differential there to take advantage of. Now, Miles Sanders, you might have more luck with, but I don't think so. I think James Robinson is the value this year. I think that's that people are low on in ranks and are actually low on in value. Like they want out of the undrafted free agent just in case. No one in. So I haven't had a great deal of luck in my actual leagues. I've actually sent trades on James Robinson. Offers I thought were fair, but apparently I haven't met the baseline yet. And that's fair because I suck at trades, to be fair. I think James and Robinson might be where there's more upside than investment cost. You're still going to lose all that investment cost if he doesn't produce next year, but I'm vying for a top 12 running back in my head, so it's probably worth it. Yeah. Unfortunately, now's just, again, in terms of theory, now's when you don't buy running backs because the draft is yet to happen and the value's high and they could get injured or they could get Trey Masoned and stuff like that. But I don't know. It depends on your league. Part of me thinks now's the exact time to buy running backs because no one wants to buy running backs right now, which means you're the only contender. Buying wide receivers right now is probably the move, but they're not the league-winning move. So I'm always kind of waiting for buy running back season, and there never is one. There's never buy running back season. It's always sell running back season, and it's rough because at some point you need to acquire running backs. Now, normally that's in rookie drafts, but man, people love this tweet. Sorry, I've never gone viral. That's about 63 likes is about as good as I'm ever going to do. So I was just basking in it a little bit. Give me a break, right? People love the Cole Beasley tweet. Go figure. All right. Does anyone, seriously, I'm not trying to get out of here, but I also don't want to just sit here staring at you. And believe it or not, I don't like the sound of my own voice. So any questions, things you want me to look up, situations, trades you want to talk about, let me know. I'm very much in hardware mode. As I was just saying, I've got to break down a whole bunch of rookies I haven't even looked at yet. I've been trying to use this off season to create a weekly database, which is very time consuming and you don't want to hear about it and you don't need to care, but it's copying over a lot of data so I can organize it in the same way that my regular NFL database is done. I'm considering what to do with projections. I want to recreate or rework my projection model. But again, I don't want to just talk about it. I doubt many people will be interested in it's not even the technicals or the theory. It's what would you call the bureaucracy or the, what's the word I'm looking for? The actual mechanics of getting the sheet to work the way I want it to work. It's not like talking about actual projections or how it works or how I can make better projections. It's more reworking how it does the formulas. So, that wouldn't be interesting to most people. I've also, as I've been talking about in the podcast a lot lately, really trying to reassess how to find buys and sells, or how to value wide receivers and running backs at the right times in the right way. Because I really want to get better at identifying potential top 12 running backs, because I think that's where the market is least efficient. Because our response to it has typically been just to up running back ADP increasingly high to insane levels, to where it's now a negative expected value. Like we're taking the top 24 running backs before we get to the top 12 wide receivers in some redraft instances. And it's just not the way to do it. But I did that. And now I'm trying to figure out when you're meant to buy running backs. As someone who's always I just think you're always meant to sell running backs. At some point you need to get running backs on your team. And I can't figure out after the draft, after the startup draft, or after rookie drafts for that matter, like when's the best time or how should you approach getting them? So I've been trying to figure that out. I have no answers yet, but that's kind of where my head's at. I'm trying to figure out what's the best literal time of year, actually, to do certain things. There's standard answers to that you probably are all aware of, but I don't know. Just trying to figure out if they're all right. Are you worried about Ronda Moore might be drafted as an RB? I'm worried how the NFL is going to perceive him. I think that would be a fair concern. because we need the NFL to give him access to a situation where he can earn opportunity, right? So we need him to at least have top 3 round draft capital. He can still break out without it, but that's preferred. And hopefully they're not trying to put him in the running back room, because how can you learn to be a wide receiver if you're literally not given the playbook for wide receivers? So that would be a concern. Yeah, I don't know where you heard that. Probably a more authoritative source than me, but I have not heard that before. You mean a Curtis Samuel kind of treatment? Ronda Moore was a better wide receiver in the 1 year he played than Curtis Samuel was, if that's any consolation. So no, it would be really concerning if that's the way the NFL views him. If that answers your question, Mike. I hope to God they don't miss that hard, but yeah. Logistics, thank you. Yes, that is a word, Ryan. Yeah, but lots of people ask Lamar Jackson to try out for wide receiver or whatever. I mean, not to throw insults out lightly, but I'm gonna do it. Some NFL teams are just stupid, man. They think they know better than to look down on players, and the players are better than most of the teams. And I want to tell you, and it is a concern because, like I said, I mean, as much as I like to say wide receivers can make their own opportunity, the NFL can literally just tank your career if it chooses to. And that would be one way to tank his career. So, yeah, that's a concern. But it's kind of the concern I will have it if it happens. Outside of that, I think it's probably a little clickbaity. I'm probably just trying to get you to read. And it's just fine. I love reading content. But I don't know if he needs... This is the hard part where I don't evaluate through tape. Like, what you're talking about may make perfect sense, but I think he can do a great job as a wide receiver. I don't know how well role translates from college to the NFL because we don't track it, frankly. And I don't have ADOT. But I think he could be an incredibly productive player at the wide receiver position in the NFL. Outside of that, I can say I'd rather he goes to a good team or a bad team. And for me, what that means is a team that can do things like you're talking about. I think the Saints have above average coaches and a well-managed team outside of the cap situation. So yeah, they are willing to use a player how he should be used or let a player play, in other words. At least that's smart. And some NFL teams, not so much, it seems. So yeah, I don't mind the Saints landing spot. But honestly, I think given the right draft capital, I think Ronda Moore is good enough to prove himself anywhere. But, even I got nervous when Mims went to the Jets. So, I'm also starting to get nervous when players go to Philadelphia as well. They seem to be a bad team again. Ideal landing spots, I don't spend a lot of time thinking of it, where I let the draft happen and then make my opinions based on it. But Ronda Moore, killer slot wide. I don't want him to go to the fucking Browns because they have an amazing slot wide receiver. If we're saying and I don't know if it will, but if we're saying his role has to be the slot, I don't want him to go compete with Jarvis Landry. That's too much for a kid. I tell you what, look at it another way. I was recently reading, I forget his name. Shoot. You know who he is as well, but he was talking about how the role of wide receivers in the blocking game is being underrated and is slowly increasing in recent years. That's why someone like Chris Godwin, who's a really good blocker, apparently, it's not something I track, that's part of why he got his draft capital, part of why he got his early opportunity. I think he was also a good receiver. I think if you're not a good receiver and a good blocker, it's not going to work out. I still think you need to be a good receiver. But that might just be defending my process. But Ronda Moore, I mean, there's really no underrating exactly how much power that package, he's incredibly powerful. And apparently he actually combines that with good skill in the blocking game. So NFL teams who are more forward thinking and beginning to use wide receivers in the more interesting ways in the current game will like him. So my hope is that, as well as other things, pushes him towards not a progressive team, but a better managed team. So the Saints are a good one. I think you could say that they fit into that description. But yeah, there are a few teams that are starting to think more broadly or more. Yeah, it's more advanced thinking about the wide receiver position. I think Moore could fall into one of those schemes because he only has 1 year, because he has such a unique physical makeup, and yet is also a good receiver because he can use that physical makeup in a certain way. I think he might end up with a very interesting landing spot. Some team's stupid. Okay, I don't know if that was well said, but it's from the heart, buddy. Anyway, Tom Brady is. That's fair. Okay, yeah. It doesn't have to be a well-managed team. It can also be a well-quarterbacked team, I guess. But I think Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, some of these guys are playing coaching. You know, they're player coaches or whatever. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to think of good landing spots. Like, where do I want a player to go? See, that's actually a problem with a lot of my favorite players because they end up on the same teams, and that creates it hard. Like Justin Watson, followed right up with Tyler Johnson, behind Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. Just like, I mean, Tampa Bay's at least got a good scouting department, but it really cuts their career a little bit, you know? The Rams are pretty good at it, but I don't know what they're playing right now. They do have Matthew Stafford now. And Ronda Moore would be a really interesting young dynamic piece to offer an aging quarterback where they're not going to have a lot of value. But do they even have picks left? I don't know. Where would you have Devonte Williams stacked up in the 2020 class? Ooh, good question. See where I've got him here. Let's see. Najee Harris is really the only player who's in the top tier of the 2020 class for me, if they're all rookies, and I don't know their landing spots. Travis Etienne is second tier. Chuba Hubbard and Gainwell would have been pushing for that second tier, probably, but they got issues. Javonte Williams is the one you asked about, right? I've got him 5 in a tier with Gainwell and Hubbard, so I don't know. It wouldn't have been as high as you probably like. In last year's class, 6 to 8 is what I'm thinking. I wish I could pull up my rookie board from that year, but let's just try and use the database. Remember, my rankings don't reflect any particular stat because I'm an emotion player, okay? Taylor Dillon was too high. 1, 2, 3, 4. I probably would have had Najee above Swift, by the way. So that's 5 players right off the block. So yeah, we're running like 6 to 8, 6 to 9, somewhere in that range. As a second round pick, like, no, really, I think a better way of answering your question is the only player I would have considered in the first round, along with last year's running backs, is Najee Harris. He's the only one I would really have on that list, or maybe would have had on that list. It's hard to look back in hindsight, you know. Fairly, because it's so easy to say I wouldn't at all, because it's so rare we get hits. It's easy just to bet on variance there and say none of them are as good. But I think Najee Harris would have been in the conversation with Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins. I think he would have been there. Travis Etienne would have been close, but probably would have been. He would have been ahead of who was a late first round pick running back last year. Went to Tampa Bay. For some reason, his name just jumped out my head. Keyshawn Vaughn. Yeah, I would have had him ahead of Keyshawn Vaughn, like have no fear there. But he would have been between those two. That top tier of running backs and Keyshawn Vaughn. He would have been better than Keyshawn Vaughn, if that answers your question. Got to go in a minute. Thanks for the stream, Peter. No problem, man. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. See you in the future one. Yeah, every Monday grind on a Tuesday. And again, for the next few weeks, it's probably going to keep having to be on a Tuesday just because one of my jobs wants me to work extra Mondays right now, and money. He likes throwing to small slots. Tom Brady. Oh, okay. So what do you mean? Yeah, he also seemed to do pretty decently with Mike Evans last year, but I get what you mean. I think, again, where certain players are just above general theory, Tom Brady's it's like Peyton Manning. It's just a different kind of thing. I think he can make any player work if he needs to. That doesn't always make him fantasy relevant, but yeah. Who else likes throwing to small slots? I was trying to think of other quarterbacks that have that preference. You know, we think of Josh Allen and Mahomes going down the field. Drew Brees can make a short. And to be fair, isn't that what you said, Nick? You'd like the Saints for him? That's fair. You'd have a good coaching staff and a good quarterback and really take advantage of that as well. Don't hate it. Yeah, I think Tampa Bay is a little stacked at wide receiver right now. I think they're good. But yeah, I don't hate having Tom Brady as your quarterback for obvious reasons. Could see Williams being drafted to an ideal spot and his value skyrocket like CEH. That's fair. I was thinking post-draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I would say I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire a little bit more than Javonte Williams, but Javonte Williams probably has a size concern on him. I like smaller running backs, but that's actually probably because people underrate that receiving skill set of him. Yeah, actually, you know what it is with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I let tape evaluations influence me more than other nerds, frankly, because I can do my own nerding. And the utility of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the value of him to his teammates was just emphasized over and over and over again. From every tape evaluation I read, from every interview I saw, from every teammate as well. And just kind of it really made me enamored with him, especially after his draft capital. If they were all rookies without draft capital, we didn't know where they were going. Yeah, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Javonte Williams would have been in a class below Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, and Najee Harris. Yeah, I think that would be fair to say. That's a good point, W.T. Lang. I don't mind that comparison. And Williams probably has, and I'm not tracking the damn pro days, but I think he's more prototypical size, if I remember right. Like I seem to remember people not liking Clyde Edwards-Helaire's height and shit. Where's Williams? I'm just checking his receiving. 1 year with 20 catches or more. It's fine. 13 points per game above the average of running back ones. Okay, that's pretty good. But what I'm looking for is receiving. Yeah, 15 and 20% receiving yards. He seems to have a pretty decent receiving skill set. Sorry, a pretty decent receiving skill set. I mean, it's not Michael Carter or nothing, but I think Michael Carter and Chuba Hubbard are my two seem to be undervalued running backs this year. I like Kenny Gainwell, but everyone knows Kenny Gainwell. He's not going to be underrated. And honestly, Jake just tanked his film profile. He said he's not very good, and that weighs on me. And obviously, I don't listen to tape grinders, except for the fact I listen to tape grinders, and that weighs with me. I would say not every tape grinder has said negative things about Gainwell, but I trust Jake's opinion a lot, even if he's a golfer. It really, like, it didn't just, it wasn't he just didn't like him. He really didn't like him. Keyshawn Vaughn, below both of them. What were you asking? Please not Rondo with Brett. No, Keyshawn Vaughn. Yeah. Oh, you're remembering the name for me. I appreciate it. Yeah. I got there though. I think I got there before then. Cohen equals 5'7", 180 pounds. Moore equals 5'7", 180 pounds. Sure. Man, I really wouldn't stress over the idea unless it happened. I mean, read the content. It sounds like a fascinating read. By all means, I can smell incense. Does that mean I'm having a heart attack or something? Isn't that? No, that's burnt toast. I can smell incense right now. I don't have any incense. Anyway, but I don't think so. I mean, he wasn't running the ball a lot. Curtis Samuel was at least playing something of a dual role the last time they tried to do that. In college, and Moore was a straight up wide receiver. Just because he's shorter and powerful. Teams don't even draft running backs to catch passes if they haven't caught passes before. I don't think they're going to spend good draft capital on Ronda Moore in the hopes of converting him into a running back. And I mean, I don't think so. But if it happens, we'll have to adjust for it. So it's nice to get the heads up. I appreciate it. But it feels a little like an unnecessary worry. But hell, man, I don't get paid for this. By which I mean I know less than most people, granted. And maybe that is what teams think. But we'll know when the draft happens if that's what they do. So I'm not going to stress about it unless it happens. Just and be sure you're not having your rookie draft before the NFL draft. That's a bad idea. Sharks are really going to take advantage then. Yeah, I've seen lots of those too. Kind of Samuel tweets. But again, I mean, let's see if I can find some way of... Like, again, NFL teams aren't innovators. I think that's the plainest way of saying it. This will take a second, but... And I get it. He's a short guy who's very dynamic in space. I get that. But that could also be said about a lot of players. I don't think a team's going to spend draft capital on a player like that just to try and make him do something he's never done before. Or hasn't done much of before. That's, I mean, if that... He's not getting much draft capital if that would happen. I mean, to be fair, Ronda Moore had 6% of the team's rushing yards in 2020, but that's because the team barely played. In the year we're talking about where he was actually playing, the year they're actually probably going to use to try and evaluate him because he played more than 4 games, he had 12% of the team's rushing attempts. Curtis Samuel had 24%. Like, Curtis Samuel played a significant... It's not like Ronda Moore wasn't playing a Laviska Shenault type role in college. Like, he had a rushing element to his game. It's just... It's not pronounced enough that I think an NFL team would look at it and go, what if we spent all this time trying to convert a typical wide receiver into an actual running back? Like, Curtis Samuel was used enough in his junior season where he was almost playing a hybrid role. Ronda Moore never got there in that 1 year. Like, he wasn't playing that kind of role, and I don't think, but I don't know anyone on an NFL team. I mean, by God, and by golly, my whole thing is I'm going to wait till the NFL tells me with what they do in the draft. But asking to guess, I would say Curtis Samuel was seen as more of that hybrid player because he played more of that hybrid role in college. Ronda Moore didn't really. But yeah, anything can happen. The NFL's a crazy weird place, you know? Like, well, reality is a crazy weird place. Yeah, I don't know that too. Curtis Samuel stretches the field. You're talking about the way in which they were used. Fair. Ronda Moore can also run really fast down the sideline. I guarantee you he can run really fast down the sideline. Because he can run really fast. I mean, do teams use players from the wide receiver position outside of the ways they were used in college? Compared to running back, yes, they do. Golden Tate was literally just a downfield receiver in college. Like, that's what he did. He's not that in the NFL. I mean, we don't track it enough where I can really say how often or how common it is. I think it's much more likely that Ronda Moore's a Jarvis Landry type player. Don't get me wrong, but I think he can expand his skill set in the wide receiver route tree, I guess would be the way of saying it, much more than the NFL would convert him over to running back because he's short. Like, I think the NFL actually does a better job of adjusting for where the talent is than BMI Twitter does. He's short, so he can't catch balls. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Sorry, it is. Not you, but the idea that because he's short, he would be better at another position, all at the same time while thinking short running backs aren't good. Like, we want big guy. And I know he's thick, but like, how many running backs are 5'7" who are any decent? We're going to convert him to a less valuable position that we normally don't spend draft capital on because he's at the height that we also don't like. It just feels like clickbaity season to me, man. But again, the NFL will tell us. Oh, yeah, I forgot you couldn't see this, by the way. Yeah, I got this thing up. Which ones I'm going to hide so you can see the rest of it. Ronda Moore and Curtis Samuel's seasons. 24% rushing touchdowns, 24% rushing percentage of the team's rushing yards. And Ronda Moore's about half of that. Again, he was playing some level of rushing attempts in college, don't get me wrong, but I think that doesn't compare. He's not playing a running back role. And even Curtis Samuel, remember, was not converted over to running back. He was playing more of a utility player position in college, and that's with like twice as much rushing experience than Ronda Moore ever displayed in college. It feels clickbaity to me, but it could happen for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sure. It's not bad, man. Yards per reception isn't a measure of how good or bad a player is. It's just not. It's how many yards they got per reception. And it does speak to the fact he was playing a shorter slot role. But 10.8 yards per reception is bad in the same way that 17.0 is bad. I mean, it's not bad in and of itself. It's basically a product of the volume you get, kind of, and your role, whether you're a slot or whether you're playing more deep targets. It's not ADOT, it's not yards per route run, it's not yards per team pass attempt. When tested against everything else, yards per reception actually corresponds to jack shit. In terms of production or ability of that production, or in terms of success into the NFL, yards per reception is interesting and the best insight into we have if they were playing down the field or close to the line of scrimmage. But like, we're talking about fantasy, right? Or I am. So Ronda Moore having a 10.8 reception isn't bad any more than 17.0 would be good. That just tells me something about the role he's playing. The point I would make is that where he was playing on the field, Ronda Moore was exceptional. So that's what matters to me, because I think you have to be kind of a unicorn to translate your college game to the NFL. So the fact that your game maybe, depending on how well roles translate over into the NFL and close to the line of scrimmage, is less interesting to me that Ronda Moore is more likely to be good at that next level. Because that's the whole ball game right there. It's not the role you play. It's if you're good enough to play that role at the NFL level. That's hurdle one. And Ronda Moore is more likely to be able to jump that hurdle. So if he jumps that hurdle into a slot role and is good in that slot role, that's going to be the fantasy relevant guy. It doesn't matter if the 17.0 guy has a larger role or further down the field role if he can't jump that hurdle. And there's absolutely no one. Well, there's about two other players in this class that I think are about as likely to be able to jump that first hurdle. So I don't really care what his role is nearly as much as he's more likely to be good at that role, whatever role he does get in the NFL, than most players in this class. I'm trying to do a spiel. I didn't mean to go on there so much, but apparently it takes me a long time to talk about yards per reception. In terms of good or bad, what's good, what's bad, your yards per team pass attempt compared to your conference or compared to your age is a better indicator or an indication at all of whether you're good and bad. And he does well in those. Yards per reception is a measure of nothing in terms of how good or bad you are, in terms of, players that have succeeded in the NFL level. It doesn't rate. It's like height or BMI. It's like, it's not that it's not information or context. It's just, it doesn't measure whether a player is going to be good or bad in the NFL. And even the ones that has some signal measure relatively little or tell us relatively low odds of whether a player is going to hit or succeed in the NFL. So using stats that literally, or using data points that literally tell you nothing, like BMI, height, yards per reception. I want to say, because everyone's process is their own, and that's fine, but it does not compute. Should I say in my typical nerdy way? I'm trying to pull out because I have yards per reception in here. I can tell you exact. Yards per reception. Yeah, it has a 3.83% description of what players do in the NFL. That's better than BMI and height. I give you that. It's also worse than going by how many players have had the name Moore and been successful in the NFL. Like literally his last name tells you more. I would guess. I haven't run those numbers, but I'm pretty much, I would guess that initials or grandmother's last name probably operate about 3% predictiveness. No, it doesn't show his role, though. It doesn't show his role, though. It gives you an insight into it. ADOT is some level of description of his role, but yards per reception is a poor insight to his role. I will accept, though, we don't have to say that it's wrong. Let's just say that's his role, and that he is a slot player. And again, I'll go back to that role doesn't always transfer into the NFL exactly, and we actually don't know because it's not tracked as well because we don't have public ADOT. But also, would you rather the player who's going to be good in the NFL in the slot or the player who's going to be bad in the NFL down the field? Like, that's the question here. It's not like they're all going to hit and you want the guy that's further down the field. It's whether you want the guy who could be Jarvis Landry or whether you want the guy that could be Laquan Treadwell. Like, I'd take the guy that could be Jarvis Landry or Cole Beasley for that matter. Like, at least he's had some production and success in the NFL. It doesn't matter how far down the field Laquan Treadwell or John Ross were playing. Cole Beasley's been more valuable, No, not necessarily. No, I mean, not necessarily. Again, Golden Tate switched to the slot once he got to the NFL. Adam Thielen wasn't even picked up by mainstream college teams. I mean, people make mistakes and also they have their own system in and of itself. Now, that's a fair assumption that players are going to create their opportunity. But remember, Ronda Moore played 1 year. And he was exceptionally good at the role he had, but that's his first year, age 18, as a physical freak as well. So I don't know. It's fair to say he can't stretch the field because they didn't use him that way. For one, we didn't see it play out enough. For two, we don't know. And I think there is decent evidence to suggest roles switch when we get to college, which is why things like reception perception can persistently prove to be unsticky when you look at their roles in the NFL and stuff like that. Like, I think it's perfectly fair to say we should expect him to play a closer to the line of scrimmage role with a lower ADOT in the NFL. I think that's fair to say. There's not enough reason to suggest otherwise. But for me, it becomes whether you're more likely to be good in whatever role you play versus not good in whatever role you might play. So I'd rather have Cole Beasley with some level of success than Laquan Treadwell with no level of success. And Ronda Moore, no matter what role he earns for himself in the NFL, looks to me more like the players who have some level of success in the NFL. I mean, if there was a Calvin Johnson in here, I would take Calvin Johnson over him, and that's why I have Jamar Chase over him. Not that he's Calvin Johnson, but that he's also profiles as fairly likely to exceed, has that more traditional X-type role, and so has higher upside. And both of them have relative, compared to past prospects, look relatively well compared to those past prospects, and therefore I measure them as having a decent chance to succeed. So that's why Moore and Chase, they're both in my first tier, but I have Chase technically ranked higher because I think there's slightly more upside. I can't say that for certain because, I don't know Moore can develop a more intriguing role in the NFL. And that's before you get to red zone role, by the way, which, is also where the other points come from in fantasy. Like he could be a touchdown producer, not just playing close to the line of scrimmage, but scoring more touchdowns than you'd expect for a guy close to the line of scrimmage like a Cole Beasley, which is what leads us to the Jarvis Landry conversation. Like that's a quintessential slot guy has had max fantasy. Like Jarvis Landry's been a top five wide receiver. Like that's the upside of a guy who plays the slot. It's also the upside of a guy that plays the X. More likely happens with a guy that plays X, but it's not like they don't have the same level upside. And again, I default to the fact that on average, about 3 players hit in any draft class at the wide receiver position. And so I want the most likely to do it, not the ones who might have more upside based on their college role, presumably, but are less likely to do it. So, yeah, more climbs. So, yeah, again, 10.8 yards per reception isn't good or bad. It is some sort of insight into the role he had in college. I agree with that one. Juju had 8.6 yards per reception. Another good one. Also, I'll point out every time he had an outside role in the NFL, he's had 100 yards. Every time they move him outside. They just don't move him outside a lot. Which also kind of speaks to whether teams would if they could. I mean, yeah, I think Juju is one of the few players in the NFL, let alone on the team, that can actually produce what he produces closer to the line of scrimmage. And so Claypool and Deontay take those outside targets. Also, Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen were constantly switching in and out of the slot, despite one being like 3 or 4 inches taller than another. Which is, again, height gets confused with slot usage. Michael Thomas is a slot wide receiver. Isn't Michael Thomas is a slot wide receiver? Talk about the heights of production right there. Oh, no. I know you didn't say, you said 10.8 yards per reception is bad. I wouldn't say that in and of itself is bad. That's what I was trying to say. That's where we differ. I don't want to spend high draft capital for a small slot that might get me wide receiver 2 to 3 production. Okay. I don't see that as his upside. Again, as we were just talking about slot, I think the upside of a slot wide receiver is Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Jarvis Landry, or Michael Thomas. So I don't see a limited upside there. And also, again, I'd rather roster the guy that's more likely to be Cole Beasley than more likely to be John Ross, if we're talking in the same height range. Like, I don't care if John Ross could have featured on the outside. He was not likely to actually produce in the NFL. So it doesn't matter how likely you would work down the field if you're going to produce in the NFL, if you're not going to do it, more likely. If you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather some points than no points. But again, I don't actually think that's his upside. But I get what you're saying. I do. And I'm not betting on floor. Again, I think Moore has a higher ceiling than you're giving him credit for. I think height and the word slot make you think limited, and I don't think that limits production inherently. Hey, J Mike. Oh, you got hearts for me. I appreciate it. Oh, it was for you. Okay. Apologize for that. I was taking your hearts, Nick. I didn't mean to. Mike, you're going to shoot for the stars with your wide receivers, but you're likely getting Ronda at the end of the first, beginning of the second. Wide receiver 2 production is great from there, man. Again, I don't know. Maybe I'm shooting for the moon, but I think a slot wide receiver can produce more upside than maybe we're describing it here. But I get it. I get the concern. But then when you combine it with the fact that relatively few of these wide receivers with, more common top 12 roles, should we say. DeAndre Hopkins is a damn slot receiver. Anyway, sorry, I spoke. A tall slot receiver, though, so I guess that matters. What was I going to say? When you consider these guys with a more traditional X role or these larger yards per receptions, if we're going to use that a window into it, again, I just don't know it matters. Like, especially yards per reception, because where it's not a dot, here's the other downside of it. Like, Dimey Brown has a lot of yards per reception, but it's because he's specifically worked as a long-distance receiver. I don't know why I'm calling it that, an outside receiver. And the chances of being Deshaun Jackson, as in having consistent week-to-week value or top 12 upside as that kind of player, is actually smaller than being a slot wide receiver. Like, we've had one Deshaun Jackson, but we can name 4 or 5 off the top of our head slot wide receivers who had significance week over week, right? There's literally one guy who's had a purely outside role that's been fantasy relevant consistently, and that's Deshaun Jackson, and only Deshaun Jackson. So, like, it's where one extreme or the other isn't good or bad. And that's what I was saying about yards per reception. It's about how good you are in those roles or how good that translates into fantasy points in those roles. Like, it could be Deshaun Jackson over here on the yards per reception, and it can be Jarvis Landry over here on the low yards per reception. Or you can be, trying to think of someone other than John Ross. First round wide receiver, played for Carolina forever, successful career, but never really fantasy significant. Who am I thinking of? Anyway, that's a guy we could put on this other end if it's not John Ross, or Deshaun Jackson, or it could be Jarvis Landry or Cole Beasley, if you know what I mean. God, what was his name? Shit. Stonehands. Fast 40. Never going to remember it. I've got a sheet up here. That should answer it for me, shouldn't it? I don't have a landing team in here. Shit. Ted Ginn. So you can be Deshaun Jackson or Ted Ginn on one end of the spectrum of the yards per reception scale, or you could be Jarvis Landry and Cole Beasley. I'd rather have Cole Beasley than Ted Ginn, even if, the worst of their possible outcomes happen, because Cole Beasley's been more predictable and useful in terms of giving me points. So even in terms of the flaws, if they both hit, say. But again, we're not, I gotta say it again, but we're also not creating a dichotomy with Ronda Moore. As Nick was pointing out, who else are you drafting end of the first round? Would be the actual conversation, I guess. Chase or Tua and LaVisca, 16-team, 1 QB. Chase. If it's 1 QB, yeah, I'm just going to lean Chaser. That's me. Hey, J. Mike, how you doing? They were for you. Hearts are for you. Don't let Nick steal your hearts. I think we have enough hearts for everyone, but I appreciate it, J. Mike. J. Mike spreading love, like always. It's true. Wasn't Jefferson described as a slot receiver? Yes. A wide receiver 2 with low upside because whatever. But again, I don't think Ronda Moore is Justin Jefferson. I think it's fairer to say that Ronda Moore has a more limited role in college. But I think that should be taken together with the fact that Ronda Moore only played 1 year to develop a role. If we only had 1 year of Jamar Chase, we wouldn't be interested in him. We're lucky Ronda Moore was good enough to show us that earlier. Actually, what was his yards per reception? 14.6. So technically it was further down the field. But again, yards per reception kind of is an insight into role, but it kind of sucks for it. That's why ADOT's preferred. I think that's a really interesting point, though, Mike, because I think that might be missed, that yards per reception isn't inherently good or bad. Ted Ginn has a huge yards per reception, but that's not inherently good compared to, like we were saying, Justin Jefferson or even Juju Smith-Schuster, who's never had a 10 ADOT as far as I know. So the yards per reception is an insight, but it's not inherently good or bad to be on one side of the scale or the other. It's about how much volume you amass and how efficient you are on that volume in that role. So it's an interesting point to bring up, for sure. Never really thought about it quite that way. Jarvis Landry is definitely not significantly bigger. Neither's Stephon Diggs. And if your problem is a role, then why does their height matter? You see what I mean? I think we're correlating slot and height when it fits the story, and then not when it doesn't fit the story. Like, just because you're short doesn't mean you play in the slot. And just because you're big and you play in the slot doesn't mean you're more productive. I don't think. I mean, I wasn't. But would I compare them? No. Those didn't come up naturally in any of my comparisons when I was doing rookie previews of them. Mostly because where Ronda Moore was more productive earlier than most of them. And again, they, like we looked at with Justin Jefferson, they had slightly different roles, as much of an insight as I have into their role. But they all look to be, and speaking to the list, more likely to be successful in the NFL, not using yards per reception, but using yards per team pass attempt adjusted by age and adjusted by conference and just straight yards per team pass attempt. They measure more closely to Ronda Moore than whoever the other rookie is you would rather take over him at the end of the first round, because we haven't named him. And this was with hypothetical draft capital, to be fair. So that will sort a lot of that out. All those guys have all those guys have played in the NFL, which and have gone on to demonstrate great ability to threaten deep. Most of their value in fantasy hasn't come from the majority of those deep targets, because they don't have huge ADOTs or nothing. They're not playing deep in the sense that you're talking about, that Moore won't. Like, all of them are volume hogs, which is what Ronda Moore would have to be to do it. And I think he could. How am I going to filter this? Cooper Kupp's going to come up first. I'll tell you what, I got a player comparison thing over here. Let's do that. What else did you say? Does he have a junior after his name? Misspelling Justin Jefferson? That doesn't seem like me. Oh, that's because he did. Oh, I had my tool set wrong. So first year in the NFL, Cooper, Jefferson, Diggs all had an ADOT below 11. Cooper Kupp literally had an 8.7 ADOT, which is a pure slot role. They did it in college. Cool. But the value of them in the NFL was their slot role. And increasingly, according to other tape grinders that keep asking me to track slot usage, increasingly the wide receiver one on teams are used in the slot, which is also why I don't know why slot is an inherently negative term for some. Like, it's where a lot of wide receiver one production is coming from these days at every height. Well, not every height, but most. I used to be good at Excel. How was it? I'm still trying to get there. Dynasty Hot Sauce. Nick, yeah, I get real Excel envy watching Peter. Okay, all right. Let's calm down on the Excel love. It's an annoying program. Gonna flex my player comparison thing. No, this is actually, the career production tab I've got, so you can pull up rookies and compare them to the averages of players with certain numbers of production seasons. I just took all that average out and just expanded these examples. And that meant I could pull up players in individual career years to compare more directly. So I could look at Kenny Galladay's career playing out and then Stephon Diggs. Like, that wasn't what I wanted to do, but then I realized that was going to be a lot easier than creating a player comparison tool. So I just did that. Sorry, I'm never even looked at yards per reception much, so I was trying to see who else was low. Look at some definition of successful players. I don't think I've tested yards per reception against itself into the NFL, to be fair. Okay, dude. Okay, here's a better list of names because I get that Jefferson's triggering you. Well, not triggering you, but it's not what you saw in college. Antonio Brown, Randall Cobb, Robert Woods, Calvin Ridley. All of these guys had ADOTs sub 12. Actually, that's a little unfair. I went too far, but Antonio Brown definitely had an yards per reception almost exactly the same as Ronda Moore. It's actually slightly slower, slightly lower. Also notice how most of these guys aren't pure slot receivers. Just Landry is 13.3. Again, I can't tell you how much yards per reception doesn't tell us their role, but I do think it's been well and truly documented on tape that Moore was playing in the slot, obviously. But yards per reception isn't a good route to it, to comparing him to past players, is what I'm getting at there. I think it's neat that Ronda Moore and Antonio Brown have a comparison point, even if it is yards per reception. It's a bad comparison point to my own little rant there, but anyway. Are we done with yards per reception? Okay. All right. Questions? Come on, like talk for 20 minutes straight. No one's got another question to stir me up on it. That's funny. Ronda Moore and Zay Jones had nearly identical yards per receptions. If I remember right, Zay Jones was primarily used on the outside in the NFL. Maybe that showed up on his tape as well, but again, yards per reception's a tough go for all data-wise. I think that goes fundamentally to the way I prospect slightly differently, and it's not like it's a better way, or I'm telling you should not do it based on the roles they're developing in college. Like an outside role is important. That's again why I prefer Jamar Chase overall. But like I don't think players are going to do the same things in college that they do in the NFL, and I don't think players are going to look at all similar in college before they go on to be successful in the NFL. I think there are ways of comparing players, as in measuring as substantially better producing in their situation in their time in college than most others. And that is an indicator that there is some ethereal concept of talent there that we can try and highlight. And I think that's where Ronda Moore fits in. It's not that his role is perfect. It's not that I want him to just play the slot. It's not that I think I can predict his role either. I think that with the time he had in college, he displayed those indicators which suggests, for whatever reasons, he has significantly above average talent for a player playing in that situation, in that time frame, on that team. And that's the best indication I've found to help me identify players who are going to be able to elevate that first hurdle, that first step of, being able to compete with players who are all the best of the best of the best in every situation they've ever played in. So if Moore were more limited in the NFL, even though he does become good and becomes Cole Beasley, and that's where that name came up, that's a limiting factor in terms of fantasy, which is why, again, I have Jamar Chase over him, because I think he's also as likely to succeed, as much as that matters. And see his role in college and also the time spent in college suggests that he might have a more valuable fantasy role. But where I'm not prospecting his traits or his role, just his ability in that role in college, it's a different thing. I'm not saying that his role is valuable, he's particularly good at a certain role, and therefore he's going to be fantasy relevant. I'm saying what he was doing in college, he was doing in that 1 year, which is honestly my problem with him, that I didn't get to see 3 years or even 2 years like we did with Chase. Not many players can do what he did in that role, in that time frame, on that team, in that conference. And no, that for me is the best indicator that there's something about this player that's exceptionally good. So yeah, maybe that's where the disconnect is here between me and you, Mike. It's not that I know what he's going to go in college, and I'm definitely not trying to profile or project the future. I just think from the few public stats, I don't even have ADOT, man. That's fair to say. I haven't ground the tape, but in that role, I think he was exceptional. Exceptional. Yeah, that's the word. from the limited view we have of him. And that's what I'm looking for. Not a player who already plays a role that I want on my fantasy team in the NFL. I just think cream rises to the top, and I think he is more likely to be some of the cream in this draft class. But hell, man, I saw 1 year from him, and I don't even watch the tape, so it's very fair to have concerns about that. I'm just trying to let you know what I am. I get it, because it's a little weird. It's a little sideways, you know? That's just kind of the way I think, I guess. I'm not trying to highlight traits or certain abilities or certain development at all. I'm trying to... yeah, I think I said it, but Peter hates short people. No, apparently the topic for discussion tonight, Tacit Assassin 13, whoever that may be, too scared to have your real name out here, Zach Reed, is that I like short people, and I shouldn't. That says it perfectly, Mike, because I think he's talented, and I don't know what his role is going to be. As close as I can get, I think he's more likely to be talented at whatever role he develops than all but 2 of the wide receivers in this class. But having said that, that doesn't rank. I hope I said that enough. Like, that's my rankings don't follow my model or any one particular stat. There's no order you can sort that table by to get my personal rankings. And I can give them to you. They're not like a secret or nothing. It's more, I know I'm a tape grinder nerd is the way I said it on one podcast or video or something I made, because I don't trust the numbers. I take what I can understand from the numbers, and then I put them in an order of preference. Things that I like, stories that I make for myself. I like, that's why nerds hate me, and also tape grinders don't like my process as well. I like being my own thing, I guess. I appreciate you talking with me about it, because I get your concern. And I come at it backwards, so it was an opportunity to try and show how I'm coming at it sideways, and I always take those opportunities. Thumbs up, dude. Thumbs up and hearts. You can borrow some of my hearts that J Mike sent me earlier. Oh, an actual tape grinder finally chimes in. Ronda Moore creates separation out of the slot. That should drive targets, which is what I want in all my receivers. Fair enough. Like that. I'm just saying, DJ Moore apparently couldn't separate in college and can separate. That's why I know. But I'll take the positive Ronda Moore comment. Appreciate it, Zach. I was trying to think of something. Not really. No, I've still got Michael Carter in the wide receiver database. Whoops. Get rid of that. Actually, that's a very Juju Smith-Schuster thing. That might explain why I like Juju not more than other people, because as I've been discovering, his value is held over his ADP. But I respect that Ronda Moore was able to produce similarly to players with further down the field roles. Like, that's impressive to me. He's getting a 2.5 yards per team pass attempt dominator, whatever. And like players with further down the field roles scoring 3s and 2.2s in some cases. Like, it's impressive to me he's in the mix despite that hampering. That actually makes me more impressed. I get that the role is limiting for you when you think about the college, when you think about the NFL system. But I'm looking for players that stand out. There's something that stands out. Like, he had 2.5. Terrence Marshall's at 2.5. Like, being as efficient as an X receiver with what I'm assuming is a lower ADOT, that's very Juju Smith-Schuster of me. Like, that's why I still think Juju Smith-Schuster was good last year, because he was doing so much with so little given. Didn't even realize that. But it's the same logic that makes me like Juju. DJ Moore separated just fine in college. I'm just saying one tape grinder said he couldn't, and I'm assuming you're all watching the same tape, so I know what to tell you. Nerds always have the same opinion on the statistics, so it should work the other way with tape too. Don't you think? In case I didn't make it clear, this is Zach Reed from the Dynasty Dummies. Well, not that. That's his son. In the little image there, but Assassin13 on Twitter and on YouTube apparently is Zach Reed from the Dynasty Dummies, and I'm just giving him the business because we're friends, or I'm going to call him a friend. He can tell me he's not my friend later, I'm sure. Thanks, Zach. God, every time I look away. I'll check those notifications out soon, I promise. Is Rashad not being talked about so much because he's simply because he's... Sorry, I'm reading this bad. Is Rashad not being talked about so much because he's just good at everything and there's no debate? I am surprised to hear that. But yeah, we just did... you were here, Nick, so you know. He's selected as like the wide receiver 1 in that mock rookie draft we did. And I got Chase after that. I love Rashad Bateman. Like, I love him. So I'm going to say yes. That's why. He's just good at everything. At least with Ronda Moore, you get to talk about his height and whether he can work down the field. Rashad Bateman did everything. Rashad Bateman is Tyler Johnson without being a nut puncher, basically, even from the same team. I know. I don't know how everyone caught on so quickly to that, but yeah, everyone loves Rashad Bateman. As he should. I secretly think it's just because, the popular people, the cool people on Twitter have been talking about him. Blind squirrels and nuts, that kind of thing. I do think I think there's a chance he doesn't get the draft capital you all are imagining. Same with Ronda Moore, actually, which is more of a concern considering the debate already around him. I could be overemphasizing. It's the first time I've looked at conference draft rate, but literally they've never spent a 5th-round pick from any team in his conference on a wide receiver. I've spent it on tight ends, if I remember right. And if you go back far enough to where the conference name literally changes, then there's a 1st-round wide receiver. But, I mean, I do think there's reasonable concern that he's not going to be a top day 1 pick or day 2 pick. Third, we could be talking about a 4th-round player. I hope not. I don't think he should be drafted there, but I didn't think Stephon Diggs and T.Y. Hilton should be drafted where they were drafted either, and that is potentially where we can get value on Rashad Bateman because everyone's aware of him. Everyone knows. Definitely friends, I'll send hearts, but Jake beat me to it. Fair enough. I think Jake's here. Bateman is a top 4. He's pretty good. You just... Hater. Beg to differ here, but my stream and he's top 3, so like clearly you're telling lies. He's slow off the line. His footwork is really bad off the line. He can maybe fix it, though. Sorry, really not trying to dump on some of your favorite guys. You really don't have to apologize, man. If we all thought the same, there'd literally be no point. So, no, it's fine. I just also don't care about that stuff. Again, it's not that it's not relevant. I just don't know what to do with it where it's not part of my process or something I understand particularly well. My usual comeback to this is if we were on a podcast, so I'm allowed to just be toxic towards you, is no matter how slow his feet were, he seemed to be able to put up yards better than most players. It's like, I don't care how tall he is. He seems to be better than most players at that height, and that's what matters to me. Yeah, I can't really speak to tape traits. I got a tape grinder over here who seems to hate him as well, so probably not wrong. I would say, he's coming from where did Tyler Johnson and Bateman come from? Minnesota. There was an argument to say that playing at these lower level teams means that the refinement to your game doesn't have to be as fine to succeed. That makes logical sense, but I can't prove it because conference adjustments don't really bear that out. But it could be a reason that he has to develop more in this process. And if you have the innate talent to succeed in a lower situation, that makes you more likely to have the talent, whatever that is, to develop and then succeed at a higher level of expectation. So even if we want to adjust it down for the fact they're in Minnesota and so their technique wasn't as refined, they can't get there. So yeah, I could potentially defend it that way. Instead, I don't know how to compare it unless we get notes on every player ever and then look for all the players with slow feet off the line of scrimmage so we can compare them and what happened to them and then what was different about the ones that succeeded and didn't succeed. It's not that that's analytics and that's what I like. It's just that's something I can do. I can't tell you how much feet off the line of scrimmage matters without some way to go and look. Yeah, that mock draft shocked me. I was hoping to get him with 111. I swear that was off. Like Chase being below Bateman really shocked me. I agree. Tyler Johnson did the same thing for the Gophers, and he ran 4.75 40. Get me started on 40 time. He looked pretty good winning a Super Bowl ring. See, here's the thing. Like, and I'm not dismissing them like I don't care about these things. The things that you're mentioning that I can go look at, like the slow 40 time, they look like they make sense in hindsight. That's why Tyler Denson didn't get draft capital and isn't so far good in the NFL, right? Problem is, if we go back and do that to more than the one player that you're specifically looking at, referencing here, that isn't true. Slower 40s don't correspond to higher NFL success. Some of the slowest 40s correspond to high level of NFL success. And again, we could go back to Michael Thomas, who had a fairly slow 40. DeAndre Hopkins has an incredible slow 40, especially for an X that plays primarily at the slot. But he does have height. And so you kind of have to pick and choose these metrics or these data points that don't have any particular signal to make a narrative. And if you do well with that, I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm telling you that's why I don't do it. I don't know what works. I don't have a narrative system that works for me that gets me to the right players. But what I can do is look for things that normally coalesce in profiles where players succeed. And that's not 40 time. It's not height. It's not yards per reception. It's essentially age-adjusted production at the core of it. Or another way of saying it is all the players that we like to have in fantasy football all have one thing in common, literally one thing. The rest of them look drastically different, but the only commonality between at least 95% of them and nothing else correlates to 95% of the group, is age-adjusted and conference-adjusted production. That's the only thing they all share in common. To, like, say, about 95% of the group corresponds to that. Height, like a lot smaller of percentage of that group actually share common height metrics in common. I don't know why I use the word common. It's the same with 40 time, and that's the same at the running back position, actually. Although every time you bring it up, people want to mention that Arian Foster was sick that day or whatever, but, you know, there's no accounting for who else is going to be sick, I guess. So it's not that it's not important, and it's not that I want to disrespect the narrative, and I get that it makes sense when you single out individual cases like this, but I don't have that eye. I don't have that narrative advantage, and so all I can do is look at the percentages and look at what has happened in the past. And so a slow 40 or a low height or a lower yards per reception doesn't get me nearly as close to looking at the yards per team pass attempt adjusting by successful players playing at those ages. And so I lean that way. And that's what I'm selling for free, to be fair. So, like, it's free. I think I get what you mean. I didn't think Tyler Johnson had a particularly slow 40, actually. That's not what I remember his time being. But again, you got to make bets. Most players are going to fail. If you want the highest hit rate possible, just say every rookie's going to fail, and you pretty much have a higher hit rate than everyone in the world. But if we're looking for those unicorns, you got to go. I have to go, since I'm not. Where am I looking? Yeah, he did 4.75. I don't remember it being that slow. I have to go with what happens most often, at least as my baseline expectation. And then when we're looking at players where it's less clear, you just lean on preferences. But again, Ronda Moore, Bateman, and Chase are in my first tier because there's really no. That's not where there are questions. There's slight questions with Elijah Moore, and so I separated him out a little bit. Why is he a separate color? Why do I have... I hate this Zoom view. Oh, that's fine. I thought I fixed this once. Oh, I did. Look, I just haven't resorted. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Smith might be the fair comparison here because Elijah Moore also has a height thing. So I choose Ronda Moore of Devonte Smith at the same price, whatever that happens to be. And it's not because Devonte Smith doesn't have a good profile, because he does. It's that Ronda Moore has the best feature in the most useful thing I can find, which isn't height, yards per reception. It's age-adjusted production at age 18, specifically because that's the only year Ronda Moore played. Now, Devonte Smith has significantly high production, like probably as good a season last year as Ronda Moore had in his first year. And so you got these two players both having great seasons, but one did it at 18 and one did it at age 21. And where I find that almost impossible to separate out versus metrics, I just lean on the fact that most players in the NFL are successful have comparable age-adjusted production, which to me means age matters more. And so I take the player who had a good season earlier. It's not a perfect system, and it's me making my own narrative for it, but it's relying on the thing that I found that players have more in common. Could I see Devonte Smith being successful? Yes. And to your point, would Devonte Smith being successful in the NFL likely be more fantasy relevant than Ronda Moore being successful in the NFL? Yes. But I think Ronda Moore is more likely to do it slightly. And I don't think his potential role is as limited as Smith. But to be fair, this could be where I'm tripping over my own feet, relying on a preference instead of, I know what the other thing would be. I'm just relying on a preference. Gotta hit the hay now, Pete. Thanks again. How late are we getting? Shit, it's 10 o'clock. I gotta go soon. What do you rank? Who do you rank higher come as a prospect coming out? Judy or Smith? I don't know. Like in his own class, I had Judy. I know. I could pull up my rookie boards. But do you mean if they were both in the same class? Yeah, I had Judy as wide receiver 5. I have Smith as wide receiver 5. So it's pretty much exactly the same class to class. Which makes sense because they kind of topsy-turvied there. But Judy did slightly better slightly earlier. So again, I leaned Judy. Devonte Smith out-opportunityed him in his age 20 season from memory. But Judy earned more opportunity and above average opportunity at age 19. And so I kind of lean on that. I am leaning on that. Hopefully, I tried to answer both. So hopefully I got the answer out. Judy over Smith, but they're basically ranked exactly the same in their individual classes. Wide receiver 5. And I should say with these ranks, like I'm expecting Elijah Moore to drop. See, that's why I've got tiers instead of rankings right now, because draft capital means a lot. So I've got Smith and Elijah Moore and Tyler Wallace and Damien Brown basically in one tier in terms of production. But I expect Devonte Smith to get more draft capital than most of these players, so he's going to rise up in terms of ranks. He's going to be an early round pick. So I'm expecting the draft to take care of some of that. These are production tiers with preferential ranks, which is why ranks are just kind of a joke at this point for me. Well, not a joke, but they're just preference. Oh shit, that's 10 o'clock. I'm getting DMs on Discord as well. All right, y'all. Yeah, I'm going to have to get out of here. I didn't realize I'd stayed so long. Not that I didn't enjoy it. I wouldn't do it again, but I didn't tell my wife I would be down here this long. Maybe that's the easy way of saying it. And I didn't mean to be. But I'm glad we got to talking. Appreciate the conversation. Mike, Zach, thanks for coming in. J Mike, thanks for the hearts. Nick, thanks for being here start to finish. That's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. I really appreciate it. I have to go. Thanks for the discussion. No problem. I'm on my way too. Thanks, everyone. Again, usually stream every Monday. Lately, it's been Tuesdays, and it will for the next couple of weeks as I continue to do more work. Appreciate you all. Thanks for checking it out. I don't know what else to say. I got nothing to sell you. Like, I'm not selling stuff here. I just really appreciate and enjoy the chance to get to talk to you all about football. But hope to see you again next week. Also, I have like podcast if you want. Forget it. See you later. Bye.